What's going on, guys? Tomorrow is the main day. Should practice on now. Did you study up on the thing? How well versed are you at it? Oh, excellent. So then by tonight and tomorrow you'll be good. You study on the way there, study at the beach, and then you'll be good. All right, so she got her lines down pat for tomorrow. Um, she just finished washing her hair. She's gonna like relock the front of her hair now. So she's gonna be streaming late tonight. So in the meantime, I'm like, all right, since you're gonna stream late tonight, I'm gonna jump on. All right, play a little bit of Mario Kart, listen to some world news in the background while you guys are chilling in here with me, and see. Pretty much, I'm just gonna hang out with you guys for about an hour and a half. It's 9:01 right now, so from 9 to about 10:30, she should be done by then. I'm gonna set up her stream at 11 and be done by 12:30, 1 o'clock. Then we're gonna get some sleep so we can wake up early in the morning, because we want to literally get to the beach as early as possible. TV people are supposed to be there by 12 noon. We want to get there by like 11, do our shoots and stuff like that. Let them do their shoots, and then we do the rest, and then we head back and I stream some Zelda tomorrow when I get back after my stream with Reg, and then we're back on track. Oh, what a month. Let's see what's on. Let's see. Oh, crap. I haven't even done the damn. Hold on, guys. I didn't even put up the damn stream details yet. In the 12. Pre-shoot. Pre-forever summer shoot. Prep. Throw up a thumbnail here. Have this up here. I'll be in the chat in a second, guys, so I can see who's there. Save. Open something. I got a couple of questions to ask you guys, business related. So I'm hoping we got some business minded people in here. What? Let me put up a link. Yikes. Oh, everything got turned off. That sucks. That blows for stick. Okay. Save that. Close out that. Let's see something here. Here we go. Right again. Hopefully we got a couple people up. Send out to him. Send out to him. I'm sending out a bunch of links to people, guys, for the stream. Hopefully you guys can come on and keep me some company for the next hour and a half. See key song. Ah, crap. Gotta be kidding me. What? The thumbnail gonna come up? Oh, hell no. Well, whatever. Wait, why did it go to why did it go to him twice? That's so dumb. Let's push to. Uh, oh, boy. Alrighty then. Good enough, and I'll wait for that rest to come in. Start my little Mario Kart, but before we even do any of that, wait, what? Wait, what? What? Oh, I'm gonna do this. Let me go grab a. Oh, Geekdom did a full spoilers. This is 2 hours ago. Oh, how likely is a regional conflict? Oh, this is going to be good.
Hezbollah. Retaliation and recriminations. Israel has ramped up its strikes on Hezbollah, killing civilians in Lebanon. A move that the group says won't go unpunished. Combined with the war on Gaza, could this exchange escalate into a regional conflict? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Adrian Finnegan. The Israeli military has been exchanging fire with the Lebanese group Hezbollah almost daily since October 7th. Hezbollah says that it's in solidarity with its ally in Gaza, Hamas, and that it will continue as long as Israel bombards the Strip. At least 200 fighters and 13 soldiers have been killed, but this week Israeli strikes killed 10 civilians, including children, in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah has promised to retaliate, but Lebanon submitted a complaint to the UN Security Council. Both sides say they're not looking for all-out war, but increasingly attacks are happening far beyond the border area. So what does each party want to achieve, and how likely is a regional conflict? We'll explore all of this with our guests in just a moment. First, this report by Malachabe Mutsepe.
Since Israel launched its war on Gaza 4 months ago, the army's exchanges with resistance movements in the region have escalated. The conflict between the Israeli military and Hezbollah at the Lebanon border has fled as the group pledged solidarity with Hamas against Israeli aggression. There have been near-daily exchanges of fire since October the 7th. Wednesday was the most volatile. 3 Hezbollah fighters and at least 10 civilians were killed in southern Lebanon. The group's leader promised Israel would pay.
We are fighting in southern Lebanon with our eyes on Gaza. When the aggression stops against Gaza, and when the shooting stops in Gaza, we will stop the shooting in the south.
The next day, Hezbollah fired rockets towards northern Israel. However, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says the country is not looking for full-scale conflict.
The planes that are flying in Lebanon's sky as we speak have targets, and they know to attack them and how to change their attack from one place to another. We could do a copy-paste from Gaza to Beirut, but we don't want to go there. Israel would pay a heavy price, and it would be catastrophic to Lebanon and Hezbollah.
The tit-for-tat attacks have displaced at least 85,000 people on both sides of the border. Those left behind say they live in constant fear of airstrikes.
Every day, the Israelis prove they cannot be trusted and that no one is safe near them. They are targeting civilians. To them, there is no difference between military personnel, children and adults.
We heard a loud
Hey,
explosion.
Keith, what's
I
up?
didn't know exactly what happened. I thought maybe rockets were launched from here, but then when the ambulances started arriving, we knew there had been a strike.
The Israeli military has been accused of using white phosphorus as a weapon, an act that's classified as a war crime. It has also stepped up attacks on Hezbollah operation sites and carried out targeted killings of Hezbollah and Hamas leaders far from the battlefield, raising fears that the war on Gaza and battles on the Lebanon border will lead to larger regional conflict. Malika Bemadzebe, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Let's bring in our guests for today's discussion. From London, we're joined by Gilbert Ashkar, who's a professor of Development Studies and International Relations at the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies. From Beirut, we're joined by Hala Jabba, an award-winning journalist and author of Hezbollah, Born with a Vengeance. And from Brussels, we're joined by Elijah Magnier, who's a military and security analyst who's covered conflicts in the Middle East, including Lebanon, for more than 35 years. Warm welcome to you all. Elijah, let's start with you. Just how dangerous a moment is this for the region, despite all parties saying that they don't want one? Could we see Israel and Hezbollah at war again?
It is extremely dangerous because the Middle East is dealing with an Israeli prime minister who is holding to his seat, wants to remain in power, and is determined, even at the cost of burning all of Gaza, Lebanon, attack Iraq, Syria, whatever keeps him at war to justify his presence and to dismiss an early election in Israel. He's going to enlarge the war as long as he can and as much as he can. And this is why he is breaking the rules of engagement in Lebanon, and he is trying to provoke Hezbollah into a larger conflict, knowing that Hezbollah wants to establish deterrence, and he is still, yet despite all his attempts to commit all these bombardments and commit crimes against civilians, he is insisting in continuing the bombardment on Lebanon, and above all, insisting that the war on Gaza, that is the key of the solution and the trouble of everything in the Middle East today.
Hala, do you agree that this is a particularly dangerous moment for the region? How likely is it that it could escalate?
Yes, absolutely. I think we are now at the junction where we refer to it, or we see it as a tipping point, because that's where we are. We are at a tipping point. If you had asked us this a month ago, 2 months ago, it wasn't as bad as it is now. Both sides, we know, in theory, do not want this war. Both sides do not want to wage large-scale war on each other. Both sides, however, have red lines, be it Hezbollah or Israel. And the escalations in the last, the escalation, especially from Israel in the last week, is quite considerable. And it begs the question as to what they want to achieve from this. Do they want, they're forcing, or they're trying to force Hezbollah into a large-scale war? However, Hezbollah is playing it wiser, if you want. And if we look at both sides, we see that Hezbollah continues to target military installations or military targets, whereas in the case of Israel, Israel is actually provoking Hezbollah by targeting civilian targets, like we've seen in the last 3 days. There were mothers and children and families that were actually killed. So even though he doesn't want a war, but like Elijah said, it is in Netanyahu's interest at the moment to continue in a state of war, because as long as he is, he will not be ousted, and he will not be facing the criminal charges that he has to face later. So he wants to stay on the seat. But like Elijah also said, this is at the risk burning this region and blowing it out, maybe out of control by triggering a regional war.
Yeah, just to save his
Professor,
ass.
as you heard there, both sides insist that they don't want a war. Hezbollah, however, has vowed to retaliate for Wednesday's strikes this week. Is there a danger that the situation could accidentally escalate?
Accidentally. My ass.
I think it would be difficult to speak of accidents, given the extreme state of preparation and awareness of both sides. And they have both all means of self-control. There are some groups other than Hezbollah who operates from southern Lebanon, some Palestinian groups, including Hamas itself. But they are also under control by Hezbollah. So I don't think that any escalation would be just a matter of accident. If it happens, it would be something, I would say, quite deliberate, and on the Israeli side, not on the Hezbollah side. When you say both sides don't war, I don't want to enlarge the war. I don't think this is equal for both sides. I'm pretty sure that Hezbollah does not want to get into a large-scale war. Otherwise, they would have done that from the beginning in October, and at a moment when the forces of Hamas were still intact, and that could have been a joint war of both Hamas and Hezbollah, which was what Hamas actually wished for at that moment. But Lebanon, after the experience of 2006, Hezbollah is quite wary of a new episode of destruction in the country. Lebanon has today become it's on the verge of the abyss. It's an abyssal condition economically, and that's why, from the Lebanese side, Hezbollah doesn't have any incentive in enlarging the war. I can't say the same of Israel. Israel has been for quite long explaining that the day will come when they will have to settle account with Hezbollah. They can't tolerate what they regard as some kind of advanced position of Iran on their northern border. That's how they look at Hezbollah. Last August, so before Gaza, before October 7th, last August, the present Ministry of Defense, or so-called Defense of Israel, Yoav Gallant, threatened to turn Lebanon back to the Stone Age when he was visiting the border area and saw some positions of Hezbollah across the border.
Elijah, picking up on what you were saying a few minutes ago about Prime Minister Netanyahu, is perhaps a conflict in the north of Israel and the south of Lebanon, or with Lebanon as a whole, perhaps part of a strategy surrounding exiting Gaza?
The main line for Hezbollah, for Iraq, and for Yemen is to make sure that the attention of the world is not diverted away of the Palestinian cause and not shifting from not shifting the attention from what's happening in Gaza and all the crimes against humanity and war crimes and intent of genocide against the Palestinian people. That is a red line. Now, apart from that, the people in the south of Lebanon have accepted to engage in this war where Hezbollah doesn't have really limits of sacrifices, because first, if Israel is not stopped, then the next battle is on Lebanon.
Hey, Jerron, what's up?
There is a link between the Palestinians and the Lebanese. Both
How
are fighting
goes?
a just cause against injustice, because there are also territories in Lebanon that are occupied by the Israelis.
Let me change the
So
title
there,
on this.
Hezbollah is ready to intensify the bombardment equally or a bit less, because we're talking about a non-state actor versus a classical army that is considered one of the strongest in the Middle East, where that was the narrative before the 7th of October, but the Palestinian resistance obviously has broke this myth, and
Just tuning in?
Israel
Word?
has the
What's
power
going on
of
with you, though?
destruction. But
Outside of
Hezbollah also has a power of destruction
Just tuning in?
that's infused
How
all
the
these
hell
weapons
is that?
get. So at the moment, there is a containment, even if there are some violations from time to time. But what's going to happen next in Rafah? Are the Palestinians going to be pushed for another exodus? This is where the tension will rise again on the borders with Lebanon, in Yemen.
I'm listening
and
to Al Jazeera
they will
on
contribute.
the Gaza and Israel war. Is it going to break out into a regional conflict? That's what they're talking about.
I'll come to you in just a moment, but I just want to bring Gilbert in just for a moment. I didn't articulate the question particularly well when I put it to Elijah, but do you think that a conflict in the north of Israel and in southern Lebanon could be part of an Israeli strategy surrounding exiting Gaza?
No, that's a filibuster BS question.
Israel wanted to avoid conducting the war on both fronts. I mean, the intensity of destruction in Gaza is unprecedented, as everyone now acknowledges, and that would not have been possible without direct U.S. involvement. This is the first joint U.S.-Israeli war, in fact. The first war which the United States completely takes part in, approves its goals, and organizes an air bridge without which Israel would not have been able to do that. But now, I mean, they were busy destroying Gaza, which they set the end of the year 23 as a deadline for the most intensive phase.
Why the hell it didn't break?
And as soon as that ended, so from the 2nd of January, they started the escalation on the Lebanese side with the assassination of Saleh al-Aruri, who is, of course, a Hamas figure, but who lived in the midst of the areas controlled by Hezbollah in Lebanon. And we had a series of such escalation starting from that point. So very clearly, from the beginning of that year, Israel considered that since the intensive bombing of Gaza is over as a phase, and they moved to what they call lower intensity war there, they can threaten Lebanon with repeating what they did in Gaza. That's exactly what they are doing every day. They are threatening of turning Lebanon into rubbles, as they did in Gaza.
Okay, Hala, do you want to come back on that before I put a direct question to you?
Yes, I think they are intensifying across the border with Lebanon. However, I don't think yet they've started to intensify to the point of reducing it to rubble like they've done in Gaza. Can they do that in the future? Yes, absolutely. They have the power with the, they have the warplanes where Lebanon doesn't have that. Be it Lebanon as in the Lebanese army or Hezbollah as in the resistance Hezbollah, the non-state actor or the mini army. So they can inflict damage with that. Yes, Lebanon would prefer not to go through that, not to see it damaged, not to see it destroyed like 2006. If shock comes to push, they will. And the fact of the matter is that for the Lebanese, for many Lebanese, as much as they would hate that, and they're not looking forward to that, they've been there, done that, got t-shirts for it, sorry to be so fast about it. Whereas in Israel has never been through a huge bombardment, and they will get that from Hezbollah. Hezbollah is able to reach quite deep into Israel. It has never used it yet because it's always trying to be restrained. But if need be, if Israel decides to turn, as quote unquote, the rhetoric that they use into the Stone Age, well, yes, Lebanon can also, or Hezbollah can also inflict massive damages across Israel, across cities that have never seen war in their life, and they will be hugely impacted by it. So I think Israel's intent is always to come back to Lebanon and Hezbollah and finalize, or they think they will finalize. That's the last war. But I don't think they're ready. When I say ready, I don't think they want to do it at the same time as the war in Gaza is going. So I think that this escalation, it's still within a certain geography, it's still within certain rules of engagement that both seem to understand. Both will incur certain losses. They're allowing for these losses, but they don't want to go beyond for the time being. It's not to say that they wouldn't go beyond later.
Lebanon is not Hezbollah. Hezbollah is not
What
Lebanon.
the frig?
Dangers for Hezbollah here in terms of public opinion in Lebanon. If
How did my
the
bomb
country is
blow up
somehow
on
dragged
me?
into a conflict with Israel again, and targets in Beirut, for example, are being hit.
Well, we are expecting this time from the rhetoric that they said at the beginning that this is what they would do, and they use that rhetoric in order to pressure the Lebanese government to stand against or for the population to split. Look, it's no secret in Lebanon, there are two sides to this equation. There's one side that's totally rejects this, even what's going on now, rejects the idea that Lebanon should be dragged into this war, or that Hezbollah, for that matter, is fighting to support the Palestinians. But then you have another sector, which is a huge sector, which are, and we're not just talking about Shiite Lebanese or those from the south, that also include a large sector from the north and from the east and from the Christian side, that are, if you want, allies or an alliance, and they accept that this might happen and that they will take the brunt of it. Now, Beirut, yes, Beirut will be, that's what they've said, that they will attack Beirut. I think Sayyid Nasrallah, he responded to that a few days ago when he made that last statement, and he said, if they were pushed into such a war where he has to go into war, then all these rules, all these pressures will have to be set aside, and he will go into this war without actually, not without considering anything, but he will do it because he thinks it's the right thing. Lebanon usually in these cases always sort of, once the war starts, you would rally, you put your differences aside, and you rally around your other, the people that are being hit or where the war is.
Israel's going to get jumped in this war. America's going to get into it and get whopped.
If the war is launched on Lebanon, it's not like anyone can stop what's happening, and no one can stop the fact that Lebanon, either Hezbollah, will have to defend. Yes, you say Hezbollah is not Lebanon, Lebanon is not Hezbollah, no, but there's a large sector of Lebanon that is Hezbollah, and the large sector of Hezbollah that is Lebanon. So, and it is a non-state actor in Lebanon, but that's also, we need to be very clear, it's because the Lebanese army has never, ever been allowed to be weaponized as well as Israel in order to defend the country.
Oh, come on, I hit that on time, man.
But the fact of the matter
was really
fugazi
right there.
Rejected and blocked any attempt to arm the Lebanese army to such a point where it can actually take on Israel if need be. This does not happen, so the resistance such as Hezbollah and others were born into this.
You guys are something else,
Elijah, do Israel's ongoing strikes in southern Lebanon amount to war crimes?
Of course it is, because it's a attack against civilians, particularly when Israel attacked the last time in Arcadia.
Think UK is gonna assist Israel? Nah, they're gonna want to, but if they do, they're gonna get washed. So they're gonna stick out of it.
Hezbollah is extremely sensitive to the assassination or the killing or the target killing of civilians, because the Israelis send a special drone with high explosive to target particular apartment in the family. That is
okay. Behind you. Make sure you pick this up and put it on the desk.
Targeting civilians. Also, Israel has been indiscriminately destroying many houses in the south of Lebanon, burning the
UK don't want no problems right now.
All that amounts to a crime that Israel is accustomed to. This is not something new when you see what they are doing in Gaza and what they have done in the last 5 wars on Gaza and the 2006 in Lebanon. Because they are unaccountable, they can do that. And I would like to add one other point. The dangerous part is there are many troops on the Lebanese borders, and the Israelis are gathering more forces. If Hezbollah responds harshly, as rightly it has a right to retaliate to the Israelis, because they are bombarding, because they are targeting the civilians, what happens if the Israelis lose 20 to 30 soldiers with one of the big rockets of Hezbollah? This is where things that are not calculated can spill over to a larger war. So we're walking really on the edge of the abyss with the determination of Netanyahu to remain in power and provoking further Hezbollah by saying, well, now I start killing civilians. Now in Arcadia, as you rightly also suggested, it could go to Beirut, and this is where the war can be enlarged.
Gilbert, there's a UN peacekeeping force on the ground in southern Lebanon. What's it doing at this time of heightened tension? I mean, if it can't keep the peace, what is its role there?
Well, they are powerless. I mean, in the face of what is happening, they are just watching and reporting. This is not a force that has been able to take action for long. And precisely one of the issues that are on the table now in the negotiations led by Washington on the one hand and Paris on the other with regard to Lebanon, one of the question is the future of this UN force, and especially a deployment of the Lebanese army, which they would regard as more important than just the keeping this UN force doing the job.
Security Council Resolution 1701. What does all this mean for that?
Well, that's the resolution that was adopted in the wake of the 2006 Israeli war on Lebanon, Hezbollah, and that included a withdrawal of the Hezbollah forces north of the Litani River, which is something like 25-30 kilometers from north of the border. And the deployment of the Lebanese army and the United Nations forces in that area. But since then, this agreement has kind of lost its reality, and Israel on the one side has been systematically violating this agreement by violating, for instance, the Lebanese airspace and taking every kind of actions. And therefore, Hezbollah forces have gone back and redeployed in the area. And that has led to this escalation between the two sides. As I mentioned, the Israeli defense minister last August visiting the border had made the threat that I mentioned. These threats are being made, but we know that Israel now is also preparing militarily. They are taking every kind of measures for a possible action on Lebanon. I think the key point that is now holding them back is the fact that with the increasing pressure that you have internationally, especially on the issue of Rafah, the invasion of Rafah that Israel is poised to do, that wouldn't be the moment for Israel, to engage into another war that wouldn't have the approval of at least Washington. So that's the key point here. And I mean, there are
That's
talks
cheap.
about Netanyahu.
That is BS. I cannot
Are
believe I had bananas on me, and that stupid ass red show got through.
The ideal condition they would believe into engaging into a much larger war that would, including striking around Moscow.
I'm sorry, we're very tight for time. Elijah, I want to put one more question to you. What would be the implications of an escalation for the wider region there? You mentioned Iran and other earlier. Will other parties be drawn in? If so, who, how protracted or otherwise would an escalation be? Who would win?
The resistance always wins, and the occupier is always defeated. However, there are damages in every war. Now we're coming to a very critical situation where Hezbollah needs to retaliate against the killing of the civilian in Nabatigi, and that can escalate. And certainly Hezbollah would not be left alone, where again the Mediterranean can be blocked, Iran can join in, Iraq can join in, and Yemen. Who's going to win? First of all, are the Palestinian people who brought back the cause on the world table. Second, the Israelis losing. The ICJ is on Monday, and Israel Prime are no longer hidden on anyone. Third, the resistance will always confirm that it will not bow to the Israelis and to all the supporters, even if they are supported by a superpower like the United States and all the spineless European community that is not
There you go.
taking any measure
The man said that
against Israel.
spineless
So I think
Europeans.
the civilians are paying the price, but the cause is much bigger. The cause of Palestine is bigger than Gaza, is bigger than Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, and Iran.
And there we must end it. Many thanks indeed to you all, Elijah Mann.
What the hell?
And Gilbert Ashkar. As always, thank you for watching. You can see the program again at any time.
How did that come on?
Which is
Thank you.
aljazeera.com. For further discussion, you're welcome to join us on our Facebook page. You'll find that at facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. And you can join the conversation on X. Our handle there at AJ Inside Story. From me, Adrian Finnegan, and the team here in Doha. I'll see you again. Bye for now.
Well, there you go, Jerron. You know, they think the Europeans are spineless.
Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Today, nowhere left to go in Gaza. Israel has stepped up attacks on Gaza's southernmost region, Rafah. It sits on the border with Egypt, a border that few can easily cross.
It was the longest.
Give me a second.
They're doing the
I'm surprised. I'm shocked Israel hasn't been jumped given their location. No, they're gonna get. It takes time to get them. They're trying not to jump Israel, but Israel is doing everything in their power to force everyone to say, "All right, we're gonna jump you since you can't stop. Since you have no, since you won't chill, we jumping you." They didn't want to jump Israel, but if they're just going to keep bombing civilians, they blew up all of the hospitals, blew up all of the schools, blew up all of the universities, blew up several mosques. And like, what? They're like, yo, be chill. They were like, nah, fuck y'all. So I said, all right, bro. All right, B. So they're going to jump them now. And the funny part about it is, everyone thinks, wait, what is going on? Why is smart steering on? What the hell? Everyone thinks the United States is going to be able to help Israel. Bro, ain't nobody going to be able to help Israel. Israel is going to get literally washed. They cannot fight everyone. Nearly didn't make that jump. Ah, come on. Let's see the next one. Stop.
and we couldn't see the outlines of the numbers. But getting back, that's why I love this gentleman pointing out the fact that he saw this Mark I plumbing or whatever down there, because So these are the kind of details that escape most people, but good intelligence officers pick that up. Are you an intelligence officer?
You should never know.
You never know.
Hey, Scott, are you in the mood to talk to old blind Jim?
I'm always in the mood. Oh, before we get to Old Blind Jim.
I already picked up the call. All right, Jim, hang in there for a second. Are you there?
Okay, go to Old Blind Jim first, and then we'll go to what I was going to say.
All right. And actually, before we get to your question, Jim, I want to thank you for your gift. Scott, Old Blind Jim wanted to make sure that when you and I are hanging out here in North Carolina, that we eat very well.
Very well.
No. Imbibe very well.
All right, or drink very well. Let's just say done. Dining includes both elements, right?
Well, okay, so he bought me a beer.
You got to put up your own tip though.
Okay, we'll do the tip. We got it.
It's very kind of you, Jim. Thank you. What's your question for Scott?
Okay, it's not really a question. I want to say to Scott, when we met a year and a half ago, I asked you if you knew the word agape, A-G-A-P-S, A-G-A-P-S-T, I'm sorry, and you said no. And I told you it's an ancient Greek word meaning unconditional love for your fellow mankind. And so I want to say you really exude that as you have gone to Russia a couple of times, and the way you come out on the podcast and other venues, you are really the kind of person that is the best ambassador this nation has at this time. I hope you do get to go back to Russia soon enough. And if you do, I would hope that you get in touch with me, because I have a couple of possibilities that would really help you make better contacts over there, because I do know some people over there that would really probably like to talk to you because of the way you bring things out. All these other people are popular. And if you understand the word populism, then you find that the rhetoric that goes with it actually takes the mind of the listeners away from reality. That's what I want to propose to you. So,
I accept. I accept your kind offer. I am looking at June-ish, and so sometime prior to June-ish, again, we will get in touch and we'll work out this. As long as these people don't work for Russian intelligence or their secret CIA stay-behinds, we're good to go.
No, I'm all for that. No. I'm please understand, when you're the best ambassador that this nation has at this time, don't take it lightly. It's because of how you exude agape. This is why the numbers that Tucker Carlson has, these are popular, and people gravitate to that kind of rhetoric. That's where people's minds don't see the complete picture that Vladimir Putin wanted to bring out. That's where you come in, because you talk differently. You express things differently. You're reaching out to get people to understand how we must come back together as friendship. And all over
this guy was offering him this? You're trying to save the world, bro.
Convenient, and I'll go over this with you and Jeff, and work on some other things. So,
okay.
All right, Jim.
Well, thank you very much. The first thing I say, Jeff, is that is that I think Blind Jim came up with something. We now know why we're not getting the numbers we need to get. We need to convert to populism, baby. We're going full Tucker Carlson, all right? We're going to go full Tucker Carlson to get 1 billion viewers. Screw agape. I want numbers, not a joke. But, okay.
Well, you know what I was thinking as I said? There's a church in Culver City, California, which is the LA area, called Agape. And now I know what it means. I never know what it means.
Yeah, see, Blind Jim is a man who just keeps intelligence flowing into the conversation. You know who else is a very nice person?
Who else? Angel
Burley, also known as Angel Burley. And I received a package and a letter. And I want to tell Angel, your Marine Corps flag is flying behind me for you to see, and your points are displayed. And I thank you very, very much for your very kind gifts. And you imbued me with the Marine Corps spirit. And I just want to say that your letter brought tears to my eyes. You're you're a hell of a guy, and I'm glad that we made your acquaintance, and I hope that we continue to keep communicating. But thank you very much for your kind letter and for the gifts and the flags behind me. Do you see it? It's right there.
There we go. Yeah, it wasn't easy for him to get that together. So I hope you're watching, Angel.
You're welcome. All right, Angel.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Angel. And I hope you're feeling better. I hope that your health has done the.
He's finally home from the hospital.
You gotta be kidding, bro.
That's enough to do good.
You gotta be kidding.
Yeah, usually. What should we take, a pre-submitted question in text form or a phone call, Scott? We're taking a lot of phone calls today, but we don't like to leave people holding, do we?
If there's somebody there, take the phone call. Then we can go to pre-recorded or whatever. You're the boss. I'm just here to answer questions.
Hi there. Please lower your computer. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. Thanks for checking. Just want to mention something the last couple of times. I appreciated your honesty and being so ethical. I want to praise God also for being so gutsy. And
he's all about a gutsy.
Gutsy. Well, I noticed about the PowerPoint comment. As it seems to me, he did a good job under the circumstances, and want to ask you Scott's comment. He said 3 PhDs needed. I think combination of Scott and Colonel McGregor would be very good, because both of these guys know about history, and Colonel McGregor also a PhD, so that should be good. And after all, these people put their lives on the line for doing their job. So that's comments I wanted to add, and just ask Scott what's the possibility of doing so.
All right.
One other question I have.
No, that's a saving for the next episode. We have people waiting. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I sent email. Just wanted to see if I get responses. Take care.
Okay. That's fine.
Well, I mean, first of all, thank you for the kind words, and thank you for your question. We have reached out to Colonel McGregor, right, Jeff?
Yeah, he's playing hard to get. I don't know what the story is.
Well, I mean, I'm not criticizing him. I'm just saying that we have tried, and and there's a lot of platforms. We have this platform. He's not coming on, and probably because of the way I speak to Jeff, it's payback. I probably told him, don't come on the show. Scott's a really, really bad guy. But
he's afraid you'll tell him what he told me.
Judge Napolitano, who I'm frequently on, he has Colonel McGregor on often, and we're unable to get the three of us together, again, not because I don't want to. So, I can't explain it. All I can say is that I'm glad Colonel McGregor is saying what he says. He has an audience. Colonel McGregor got to be interviewed by Tucker Carlson. So he's doing something right. Tucker hasn't called me up. Hey, Tucker. But we'll see what happens. But I think that we supplement each other, but we don't complement each other. Does that make sense? Am I using the right words here? Siri, help me out. Did I say that right?
In what sense do you not complement each other? You mean C-O-M-P-L-E?
No, what I mean is that if you put the two of us together, I think we're better if I speak and he speaks, and the combined effort separately combines into better knowledge. But if we come on together, there might be some clash, there might be some friction, there might be things that degrade the overall impact that people might think. I'm just guessing that might be what's going through his mind. He might be thinking that his approach to dealing with interviews is a very calm, very this, and my approach is sometimes not so calm, and that the two, it's like oil and water. We may not mix. We need oil, we need water. They supplement or complement each. I don't know. Again, I shouldn't use big words, but but the idea is we may not mesh, and he might be smart enough to recognize that and say, I just don't want to go down that route. But I'm more than willing to appear with him anytime.
All right, I have a recorded message for Colonel McGregor. If you're listening, Colonel, listen to this.
I just want to say that you're a great man, Scott Ritter.
All right. Thank you. He may not have been aware of it.
He may not be aware of that.
John Schultz from the Portland area. In an interview in October, I believe, you opined that Israel had walked into a trap set by Hamas and was doing what Hamas wanted them to do. With all that has happened since then, do you still think Hamas calculated correctly and wanted Israel to inflict the magnitude of death and destruction it has given the people of Gaza?
Well, I think that Hamas calculated correctly. Why do I say that? Because the Israeli objectives were the military defeat of Hamas and the political defeat of Hamas. Hamas isn't militarily defeated. They continue to fight in the north. Remember when Israel said, we've cleared out Gaza City? Really? Then why do you keep dying in Gaza City?
Yikes.
Because there's tunnels under the ground that you haven't cleared out. And Hamas goes in, pops up, takes over a building that you thought was cleared. They're in your rear, and boom, next thing you know, you lose 3 guys. Hamas goes back down the tunnels. You blow up that building, but then they pop up in another building because there's tunnels. Khan Yunis, they just had a massacre of Israelis the other day. Again, because Hamas has not been defeated. And Israel's getting ready to go into Rafah, and you think it's going to be any different? Nope, they're going to kill a lot of civilians, but Hamas will still exist. Politically, if the idea was to nullify Hamas politically, you fail. Because the more harm Israel is doing to the Palestinian people, the more resilient the Palestinian people become. You know, there's just to give you an example of how Israel is messed up. We captured a guy, Sheikh Mohammed, I'm messing the name up, but he was one of the mastermind, one of the planners of 9/11. We took him to Guantanamo, and we were going to break him. We're breaking this guy, and they're doing everything. They're waterboarding the hell out of this guy, and they're torturing him, they're playing the music, and none of it's working. So then they get his family, and I forget who had the Egyptians or something like that, and they basically showed a video, and they said, if you don't talk, we're going to rape your wife on camera in front of you, and we're going to kill your child. And the words that came out of his mouth, the next words that came out of his mouth is that then, my child will go to heaven as a martyr, and I will join him. And at that point in time, they realized we just lost this interrogation. There's nothing more we can do. We've threatened the worst thing, and he didn't. Yeah, there it is, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. And they said he didn't budge at all. And so they lost at that point. What Israel doesn't understand is by slaughtering these women and children, you've done the worst thing that you can do to the Palestinians. So the Palestinians are like, what are you going to do? Kill more women and children? I mean, we're no longer terrified of this because it's the reality. We've basically, I was watching 12 O'Clock High the other day. Why am I watching 12 O'Clock High? Classic Gregory Peck movie. Because I was watching Masters of the Air, this band of brothers thing about U.S. B-17 pilots. So I said, why not watch the original classic? But I remember a scene where Gregory Peck is talking to the pilots. And basically he said, you have to give up hope. You have to realize you're already dead. That you're going to die. It's inevitable. It's just a matter of when you're going to die, but not if. And once you accept that, then you can get on with your life and live in peace. And you don't have to be stressed out. You can focus on doing your job. And I think right now, the Palestinians in Gaza have accepted that they're martyrs. They've accepted it. And they understand why they're dying. They understand what the cause is. And Israel will never defeat them, ever. So did Hamas calculate incorrectly? No. Remember, the head of Hamas, Sinwar, I think his last name is, he wrote a book. He actually was an author, and he wrote a book of nonfiction, and I think the title was Children of the Camps. And people are saying, you got to read this book, because he's telling you the psychology of the Palestinians in Gaza. We here in America or in Europe have no clue what it means to be the third generation born in a refugee camp. Because, you know, if you're the second generation, that means that your parents weren't born in the refugee camp, so you're raised in an environment where people are basically saying, you know, this is all new, but there was a time when life was better. You know, yes, this is bad, but let me tell you about when I was a child, how it was. But now these guys who grew up in the camp, they have their babies, and what they can say is, well, there was a time when my parents lived better, but I didn't, but I'm telling you about my parents. Now you get to that next generation. All they know is the camps. Nobody talks. Think about it right now. I talked about my parents, I talked about my grandparents. But I never knew my great-grandparents. Didn't know them. So I guess I could speak about peripherally. The children of the camps today only know the camps. That's all they know. They don't know anything else. They don't get to travel overseas. They don't get to go on vacations, you know, to other nations. They were born in the camp, and they're going to die in the camp. And their whole life revolves around the camp. And so the psychology of these people is completely different than anything anybody who wasn't born in the camp can understand. And so if people think that you could pressure these people, that you could bomb them into submission, that you can't, because they were born in the damn camp, and they're going to die in the camp, and they knew that. And their only hope for salvation is a free Palestinian state. And Hamas is saying this is the way to do it. Resistance. Because if you don't resist, everybody sells you out. And that's the reality. And the people of the camp know this because they've lived it. They're not waiting for Egypt to do the right thing because Egypt has never done the right thing. They're not waiting for Jordan to do the right thing because Jordan has never done the right thing. Nobody has ever done the right thing for them. Not the Palestinian Liberation Army, not the Palestinian Authority. Nobody except Hamas. Hamas is the only organization that ever said, we're willing to stand up for you. We're willing to fight for you. We're willing to die for you. And why? Thanks. Why can Hamas do that? Because they're children of the camp. They're the same people. Hamas is the people of Gaza. There's no difference between the two of them. I just broke my voice. But trying to get too emotional.
So the reason why I agree with him is because it's logical. People keep forgetting, right? People keep forgetting that the people of Gaza, those people that are dying right now in Gaza, the next generation has to be... Okay, 20 years ago, Israel has been killing people in Palestine. Those kids of those people that they killed grew up to become Hamas, right? So those people who grew up to become Hamas are now fighting for the people of Israel. Logically, it just makes sense. Oh, okay, so yeah, I can see why they're fighting. Those people are literally fighting because their parents were killed by Israel. They know Israel is stronger than them. They can't beat Israel. They know if they do nothing, they will die. If they do something, they will die. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So what's the best thing to do if that's the situation? Damned if you do. It's just that lot. It's just simple. Imagine someone saying, listen, I murdered your mother. I murdered your entire family. You're the last of your family. You have kids. And they go, surrender so I can kill you and I'll spare your child. Bro, they killed your parents and now they're going to kill you. You really think they're going to spare your children? Now, next to you is a gun and grenade. You're going to say yeah and let them kill you and then hope they spare your child? Bro, you know they're going to kill your child. You want to take them with you. And that's what's happening right now. That's literally what is happening right now. So Israel is in a bad situation. That's why Netanyahu wants to kill them all. He's like, we got to kill them all because we're in a position where they're never going to forgive us for the shit that we've done back then, which is true. They're never going to kill them. But now Israel is like, we'll go, they're in a situation where it's a bad situation for Israel because it. 1 second, guys. Hold on. Who's that? Who's that? Anyway, I agree. What about the whole Israel help fund and create Hamas? Well, that's true. United States and Israel help fund Hamas. They wanted to. Hey, let's create a terrorist group to justify us killing them, and it turned on them. They didn't think this. These guys love doing this stupid shit, and they think that this shit actually works, and it has never worked, bro. Like. You cannot create a terrorist organization that works for you, then you turn your back on them and think they're just going to sit there and die. Nobody does that. No one sits anywhere and die. They're going to be like, okay, you want to, like Osama bin Laden. Oh, I used to work for you guys, and now you guys are going to turn your back on me? I got you. Since you're going to do that, whatever, blah, 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 which is kind of funny because Osama bin Laden wasn't even the one that even blew up the World Trade Center. That's the crazy part about it. Literally, it was 14 Saudi Arabians, the very same dudes that America gets their oil from. But hey, you're getting your oil from them, so, you know, those terrorists you can let rock. You got to find someone else to blame. You can't blame the Saudis. You blame them, you don't get no more oil. And it's all politics and everything and blah, blah, blah. That's what it all comes down to. So they created Hamas, and Hamas will be their undoing. Oh well, the only people I feel sorry for is the innocent Palestinian people that have to die their way to victory. Literally, I am not even capping with that statement. They're literally going to have to die their way to victory. Physically die to win. Hence their fate. I don't know what was done in their time with Yah or whatever, but you know, we all suffer our time. It's like black people, we've suffered our time. I don't know what we did to piss off y'all, but he gave us slavery and all types of shit, so it is what it is. But I still feel, I'm still feel sorry for the Palestinian people because, bro, this shit is not even a fair war. I could understand, like, the Ukrainian war, right? If you look at the Ukrainian war, right? This is a war, a respectable one, right? Because at least when Russia is bombing Ukraine, Ukraine gets missiles and support and they can bomb back. It's an equal distribution of death and pain on both sides. You will always have to have a winner, but people are dying on both sides. Israel death casualty, they haven't even reached 2,000 people dead yet, but almost 30,000 civilians are dead. So less than 2,000 soldiers have died in Israel, but 30,000 civilians have died in Palestine. Bruh, there's no way you can justify that and say, you can't justify, no one can tell me what's right or wrong in that, bro. That's a mismatch that's just fucked up. Period. Yeah, well, that's how it is in war. Okay, then don't get mad when Hamas do what they do. That's how it is in war. Yeah, but October 7th, yeah, nigga, and then October 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 1st, September, keep going back for 75 years. Let's not forget what Israel was doing for 75 years before October 7th. Like, this is what it is. Dudes think these Israeli lives are more important. Alright, bro. These niggas live in a different universe. So they're gonna get clapped. America is gonna want to try to protect because Israel runs America. Let's keep it real. They're gonna jump in. US people gonna get clapped. They don't want, listen, them niggas don't want nothing from Saladin's ancestry, B. They just don't. And these niggas be thinking they Supermen. Alright, bro. They gonna get these hands. So, Triforce, you on their side? Nigga, I ain't on no one's side. I'm on black people's side. I'm on Africa's side. I'm just saying what I see from where I see it. The Palestinians don't help me. The Israelis don't help me. The United States don't help me. They don't help our people. So I'm just over here spectating. You ask me a question, I'll give you an answer. What the hell? Well, yeah, that's really what it is. So it's just an unfortunate situation, and all we get to do is sit here and watch. Noah, what up? Going on, I think they're untouchable. Nah, you bugging, bro. You didn't see what happened? Oh, that's right. You guys don't even watch the news, bro. Hold on, let me get it for you. I get it for you right now. Hold on. Oh, you don't understand. So you do know who wants to fight Israel? Who straight up said, we're gonna come and fucking clap your cheeks and ain't nothing nobody gonna do about it. Turkey. Erdogan said like 4 months ago, no, 3 months ago, yo, come up off the Palestinians or we're gonna come and regulate and check you. Them niggas is like, fuck this nigga Erdogan. We gonna do what we gonna do. Then them niggas pushed up to the Rafah border. Egypt said, yo, chill, do not push the Rafah border. If you do, yo, we're gonna break this peace agreement we got with you guys, and it's a wrap. Them niggas pushed up on the Rafah border. This is what happened 3 days ago. Hold on, I'm gonna get it for you. Egypt and Turkey. 1 second. Al Jazeera. What was this? No, that's 10 months ago. 2 days ago. No, that was. No. Okay. 1 second. Good.
Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi.
Bro, I'm pressing pause. Like, what the hell is wrong with you, YouTube? All right. Listen to this. Turkish president in Egypt. Country signs deal to boost cooperation. Turkey is here. The Ottoman Empire is like, what's up, nigga? We here right now. We told you niggas. Back up. Oh, but we're gonna get the US. Nigga, go get them niggas. Ain't nobody scared, B. It is what it is, bro. We in World War III. Anyone who's sitting here thinking, we're in World War III, bro. We are all gonna die. I hope you guys spent your time with your families. It's here now. Listen.
Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi hosts Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan for the first time in more than a decade. Relations broke down in 2013 when Sisi led a military coup against the country's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, an ally of Erdogan. But that appears to be behind them. And the two leaders are starting a new chapter, aiming for $15 billion a year in trade, joint investments, and deeper cooperation, starting with their shared opposition to Israel's war on Gaza.
We are proud of the level of cooperation between Egypt and Turkey for rapid access to the largest amount of humanitarian aid to our people.
Let me put context to this, right? So you can see what happens when you're the enemy of my enemy. We become friends. So even though the Egyptian president did Erdogan dirty years ago, what Israel is doing is so fucked up. Erdogan is like, yo, my nigga, we squashing it. Why? I want in on the war. That's how bad they don't like Israel. That they're willing to squash their beef just so we can get in on some Jujutsu Kaisen shit. They're gonna jump these niggas.
People in the Gaza Strip, taking into account the restrictions imposed by the Israeli authorities on the entry of this aid, which causes trucks to enter at a slow pace that is not commensurate with the needs of the residents.
Egypt has been hosting mediation efforts along with Qatar and the United States to broker a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Erdogan, an outspoken critic of Israel's war, fought for unity and peace in the region.
We will continue the cooperation and solidarity with our Egyptian brothers, calling for the bloodshed in Gaza to stop. In the medium term, we are ready to work with Egypt towards rebuilding Gaza.
Despite the political deadlock, economic and trade links between Egypt and Turkey have remained strong in the past decade. This month, Ankara announced it would supply Cairo with foreign drones. Due to the changing political and security environment in the Middle East, the region's largest two military powers, Egypt and Turkey, have compelling reasons to normalize relations. While Cairo's priorities appear to focus on cooperation, Ankara is looking for a geopolitical commitment. However, the most pressing expectation from any re-engagement is a resolution for Israel's war on Gaza.
See?
Sinem Köseoğlu, Al Jazeera, Istanbul.
That's all they're there for, bro. Ankara is there. He's there for the business. He's there to stand on business. And you know what the sad part is? Israel is gonna say, America, help us, because Israel cannot see Turkey. They can't see Turkey, bro. And they're gonna call America. America's gonna come in. Listen, America has a lot of technology and blah blah blah, but in this woke age of Americans and the weakened army and the lack of recruits, like these dudes are over here talking about pronouns, and these people over there in the Middle East is over here. Their lives is built on dying every day. That's what their lives are. Dying every day is normal to them. So what you gonna do today? Well, my mother got killed yesterday, but I think it's gonna be my turn today. Oh man, well, it's great life he had. Yeah, sure. That's what it is over there. While we're over here arguing about pronouns and women having the same pay in sports, America is bitched up. They're not about that. America has about half a million solid corn-fed white boy militia from the country Marines. That's all they got left. That's it. That's good enough to defend the country. That's not good enough to fight a war in the world, a third war in the world. That's not, you crazy. And if you think they're gonna go recruit people, you crazy. What do you think they're letting all these illegals in for, bro? That's the new American military. The illegals. They need to get these in, get them prepped. Hey, listen, you just don't come in this country for free, bro. You're gonna have to serve. You think they're letting them in for free, bro? That's the military right there. That's the military, especially when they come from a background of a third world country fighting what's the name of these guys? The cartels. They know war. They know war. Dudes got to be running for their lives and all that. They know what it is. They ready for that, bro. They're about that. They're about to stand on business too. But American civilians drafting for the war? Get the fuck out of here. America is no longer that nigga. That's all I gotta tell you. They're not that nigga. They was that nigga. They're not that nigga anymore. That's not me dissing America. That's me just keeping it 100. It's 10:12. We have an hour left. We start when we start. We start when we start. So, like, all I have to say is Israel is doomed. That's all I gotta say. That's not me wishing Israel is gonna win. I'm looking at it geopolitically. There is no instance where Israel can win. America will jump in, and then you're gonna have Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Turkey all in on it. And guess who wants to see America and Israel loser? Russia and China. What America's gonna do? Get the UK? Nigga, don't make me laugh. America. If this is an all-star game, right? America, Israel, France, Europe, and who else would help America? And Canada versus Russia, China, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan. Nigga. Nigga. And coming off the bench, all the quote unquote terrorists in the world who hate the first all-star team. Come on, get the fuck out of here. Ain't no America losing that battle, bro. They don't win that. Get out of here. That's when the nukes come and everyone lose, because America's like, if we can't win, nobody can win. But Russia has hypersonic missiles, so they can shoot down nuclear warheads. But who's going to shoot down? What is America going to do? What's America countermeasures for Russia's missiles that are launched hypersonically and they can reach from Moscow to Texas in 6 minutes? Nothing. Sit there and get bombed. Fortunately, Putin is like, man, y'all niggas is lucky we ain't even like that. We'll just fight you niggas right here. Everyone's like, oh, Putin is evil. If Putin is evil, Putin would be doing exactly what Israel is doing right now. If Putin was evil, why waste your men? Just nuke Ukraine. Why waste Russian lives? He's putting Russian lives. Russian people are literally going in to Advedico, whatever the name of that place in Bakhmut and all these places. And Russia has lost over like 200,000 soldiers already. Why do that? We just nuke Kyiv. Egypt don't do that to Gaza. Egypt just keeps throwing 2,000-pound missiles on Gaza. They ain't going in. Every time they go in, they lose like a couple of troops or whatever the case may be. 20 troops here, no, 10 troops here, 11 troops there, and whatever. But they're not committing their soldiers to go lose their lives. They're not. They're gonna hide behind bombs. Bitch shit. But everyone calls Putin evil, but he sends men to the battlefield to die like soldiers and keep the damage minimal. What are you talking about, Triforce? Russia throws missiles and stuff like that. No. Not like the way Israel's doing. Israel's throwing missiles indiscriminately. Indiscriminate. Russia is using missiles against military targets. Military. They're not throwing missiles into highly dense populated towns. Every military uses what do you call it again? Ammunition and shit like that. Shelling. Every military uses shelling. Even America just finished shelling. What was it? The Houthis or the I think it was the Houthis that they just finished shelling, or Hezbollah. I think it was Hezbollah. Yeah, it was Hezbollah. They just finished shelling Hezbollah. But guess what? They called Hezbollah, told them where they weren't gonna hit, tell them move your peoples out of the way. We bomb it to make a statement, because they're trying to keep escalation from it blown out of. So people get out of the way. Israel is not telling. Israel said, "Yo, move south. We bombing Gaza." Okay, a lot of people move south. All right, that's where Rafah is, right? Then after finished destroying Gaza, niggas went to Rafah and said, "We move north. We bombing this place." Like, nigga, you just told us to move here. Now you're gonna bomb the place you just told us to move? Yep. One only needs to see what the ICC said about them, and then you know what it is. But like, Israel gonna lose this war. America's gonna be smart. Donald Trump will win the presidency. Donald Trump will back out. He will back out of the war. He's gonna be like, nah, y'all niggas, fuck y'all niggas. Y'all niggas is bullshitting. All we doing is wasting money on y'all niggas and y'all little bitch ass war. He said something about Netanyahu the other day. He's like, Netanyahu, man, he's a real bad guy. There's some stuff you shouldn't have done, Netanyahu. I'm like, uh-oh. That means when he gets in office, it's a wrap. He gets in office, he stop funding Israel. Israel gonna go off the chain. Netanyahu got to protect himself because he doesn't want to go to prison. The only way he can stop himself from going to prison if he remains the prime minister. So he's going to keep going crazy. And it's just going to get nuts. And then it'll all work out, bro. After, you have to remember, we all have to die first. Millions have to die first. And then it all works out. 2.3 million illegal immigrants in 2023. Crazy. Yep. That's a large army, bro. That's a large army. Them niggas gonna sign up. Especially, those guys are gonna sign up and go to war for America because guess what? Their family is safe. America took them in. If y'all didn't know this was the MO from the beginning, y'all are not watching world news, bro. Come on, man. Why are they leaving the border open? Because they need a new army. Come on, man. Y'all didn't see that? You can't sit there and say y'all didn't see that, bro. They need a new army. Niggas want to play PlayStation 5 and Grand Theft Auto 6. Niggas don't want to go to the military. So, they got to get a new set of people who won't complain about going to the military. Especially if, like, we let you and your family in to run away from the cartel. You better come and serve. If not, we deport you. Okay? Honey, I'm going to go serve in the United States military so my family can stay safe in America. In my opinion, smart as shit. Smart move by Joe. That's a smart move. Can't even get mad at him. That's smart as shit. Because it's not like the American people are going to go fight. And they would rather the lives of immigrants than the lives of Americans to die. It's crazy how the whole thing is a game. Imagine what is not accounted for. Yep. I think about 5 million came into the country. That's a sizable army. That's a sizable army. See, you can call the draft on illegal people. You can't call a draft on the United States citizens without them having to have a say in it. But you can just say mandatory draft if you're an illegal. What are the illegals going to say? They have no rights here. They just came in this country. We let them in. Well, they let them in. I'm going to stop saying we, because I am not American. I'm a national, but I am not American. I can't fuck with Americans' foreign policies. I can't fuck with these niggas. I can't fuck with this level of evilness. That's just crazy. I can tolerate some amounts of evil, but this shit is over the top. This is over the top. I can't rep the set, bro. Can't rep the set. Can't rep the set when you acting like this. No way. One of the main reasons why I left the country, I was like, nah, y'all niggas is wildin'. I'm out. Dipset. You guys will see it all soon. Don't worry. You know that statement? If you don't like America, get out. Well, I left. I can't even argue with that. You don't like it, leave. Now I gotta sit here in the third world and suffer third world life. But hey, it is what it is. Gotta make choices in this world, bro. Gotta make choices. Oh, let me play the next news. Stop later.
This is why Colonel McGregor.
Oh, yeah, wow, bro.
He's like, I never. The point is, these are Hamas against the children of the camp. There's no difference between a Hamas fighter and the civilians being killed, except the Hamas fighter has guns. But the psychology is the same because they were born in the camp and they know that their fate is to die in the camp, one way or the other. So if the Israelis are saying, we're going to kill you, they're saying, that's our fate. We were going to die here no matter what. But now, by killing us, there's a chance that because of this resistance, we may actually get a Palestinian state. Game, set, match. Hamas knows exactly what they're doing. Why? Children in the camp, baby. And you know, children in the camp, you know what did they do? They brought Israel into the camp. They don't want to do that. Because Israel ain't of the camp. They're not part of that tribe. And, you know, it's just like in gang warfare, you know, the sharks and the sharks and the jets in West Side Story. You know, if you're a shark, you don't want to be in jet territory. Why? Because the jets know everything. If you're a jet, you don't want to be in shark territory because they know everything. If you're Israel, you don't want to be in the camps because the children of camp know everything.
Well, traditionally, when you start to lose your voice, that means it's time to wind things up. So let's do the coin giveaway. When Scott went to Russia back in May, this was the coin he brought and handed out as a gift. And when he went just last month in January, it was a separate coin for the New Year. And whoever wins the drawing for the coin gets to pick which of the two coins they want. We now have 660 people who have entered the drawing, so let's get to that right now. And we'll see.
The numbers go up over here.
Well,
666, that's the evil number. Thank God we got that one. That was the devil's number.
All right. Well, last time we rated to 650. Should we do it 700 tonight?
700. Let's take her to 700.
All right. Type hashtag coin in the live chat. Enter the coin if you haven't
I
already.
thought you were telling me to do that. I don't want to see the numbers. No, because if I do it, that means that somebody who could have won isn't going to win. So I don't want to be part of that.
All right.
Come on, guys. 6 more. 6 more. 3 more.
697. There it
Pull the
is.
trigger,
Let's do the
Jeff. Pull the
drawing.
trigger.
Crap.
Arcadia. I like the name.
Congratulations, Ardrada, who's watching us on YouTube tonight. And send us an email and let us know what your address is, and we'll send you whichever one of those two coins you want. So make sure you tell us which one you want. And you can email us at info@ustoofduty.org.
One of our chat people, I'm not supposed to read the chat. Siri, I'm not reading the chat. But there was a reflection, so I saw it. They said it's YouTube video.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. And you know what else? Well, maybe we'll ask Ann afterwards. There were some strange formats I saw tonight, the comments. I don't know if that was people from Rumble or not. But let's talk about that off the air, as they say. All right. And just want to tell folks that if they want to buy the coin, they can get it at scottrittermerch.com. They can also get an autographed book by Scott, Disarmament in the Time of Perestroika, and also Knowledge is Power, one of Scott's favorite sayings. Next to odious, but we don't have an odious teacher.
Well, there's another saying, but I'm not allowed to say it. You're dumber than... We should have it.
We should. Dumber than shit. I bet it'll be a big seller.
It might be the best selling t-shirt made your t-shirt.
Well, you know, like that saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So that's what we did with that.
All right, well, I'll tell you what. Anybody out there who can design a "You're Dumber Than Shit" t-shirt that could sell, send it to Jeff.
All right. You never know.
Never know.
All right. So thanks to Anne for her backstage help tonight. Thanks to Siri for her work there in Delmar, and thanks to our beloved audience, and thank you, Scott. I'll see you on Tuesday for the lightning round of Ask the Inspector. We do that every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Take care, everybody.
And just everybody be on the lookout for a Substack article called "The Death of a Traitor."
Does anyone know what Substack is? Is that like the new Reddit?
I was trying to finish before the show, but I had to dot all the I's and cross all the T's and make sure all the facts are nailed down before I go down that route. So,
and are we going to...
Okay, 4 hours ago. Let's talk about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump was just ordered to pay $355 million as part of a civil trial in New York City. Take a look right here at the New York Times coverage. Trump ordered to pay $355 million and barred from New York business. So that's really the second part of this decision. It was brought down by Judge Arthur Engoron because, again, it's a civil suit. So, in that case, let's go through a little bit of the New York Times reporting, but also some things you're probably not going to hear from the corporate press. Now, again, Judge Arthur Engoron is someone we've heard a lot about because he's been going back and forth with Trump in this, at this point, a years-long case. It's civil fraud, and as the New York Times says, it found the former president liable for conspiring to manipulate his net worth, and then his penalty was this $355 million that could actually wipe out his entire stockpile of cash. That's important because Donald Trump has recently testified essentially that what he has in cash is about $400 million of cash. So if you put the $355 million together with about the $80 million that Donald Trump was ordered to pay to E. Jean Carroll recently, that does basically wipe out his entire roughly $400 million of cash. Now, a little bit more from this case and from the New York Times. It's a fairly useful article that was just up on the screen because they even call this a chaotic case. It was brought by New York's Attorney General, Letitia James. We'll get to her in just a moment. We'll get to Engoron in just a moment as well. And Trump in this case said there were no victims. The defense actually brought people from different businesses, Deutsche Bank, forward to testify, and they referred to Donald Trump as, quote, a whale client. They were very happy to have Donald Trump as a client. They actually used other mechanisms to gauge his wealth. So the argument on behalf of Donald Trump was basically, listen, there were no victims in this case. Engoron, in addition to ordering the $355 million payment, actually also imposed a 3-year ban from Donald Trump, as the Times puts it, serving in top roles at any New York company, including his own. And he also, as the Times says, applied that punishment to the former president's adult sons for 2 years, and he ordered them to pay $4 million each. Eric Trump is the Trump Organization's right now top guy. So this throws everything, as the New York Times says, into doubt as to whether Eric Trump can retain his management of the company or his oversight in the company. And again, one of the reasons I like this Times article is because they also refer to Judge Engoron's, quote, unconventional style. That's really an understatement. If you dig back, there's a decent bit of coverage on Engoron basically being an eccentric. And the Times, I think, is capturing that in this article without sort of going all the way, which is to go all the way, you would have to bring in the drumbeat of criticism that Engoron has gotten, not just from sort of the conservative legal types who maybe hate Donald Trump but really care about law and all those different things, but actually the Associated Press published a report in January that went and asked legal experts what they thought of this case that New York Attorney General Letitia James brought. This is a little bit from, I'll just start with the headline. Dissolving Trump's business empire would stand apart in the history of New York fraud law. That's the headline of the Associated Press story. They continue to say an Associated Press analysis of nearly 70 years of civil cases under the law showed that such a penalty has only been imposed a dozen previous times, and Trump's case stands apart in a significant way. It's the only big business found that was threatened with a shutdown without a showing of obvious victims and major losses. So actually that's interesting because that was part of Donald Trump's defense, that there were no obvious victims. The Associated Press added some legal experts worried that if the judge goes out of his way to punish the former president with that worst case scenario, which was taking away actually his assets, so not just ordering the cash at the time, people were sort of thinking Engoron might yank all of Trump's business assets. The Associated Press said that could make it easier for courts to wipe out companies in the future, according to the experts I've talked to. One expert from Columbia University said this is basically a death penalty for a business. Is he just getting his desserts because of the fraud or because people don't like him? Another expert is a New York real estate lawyer who once successfully sued a Trump condo building for misrepresenting his sales to lower buyers, says this sets a horrible precedent. The University of Michigan law professor said, who suffered here? We haven't seen a long list of victims. The AP continues, the only case they found of a business dissolved under the anti-fraud law without citing actual victims or losses was a relatively small company closed in 1972 for writing term papers for college students. In that case, the Attorney General said the victim was, quote, the integrity of the educational process. They add AP's review of nearly 150 reported cases since New York's reported fraud statute was passed in 1956, showed that nearly every previous time a company was taken away, victims and losses were key factors. Customers had lost money or bought defective products or never received services ordered, leaving them cheated and angry. Again, in this case, the defense brought witnesses said they didn't feel cheated, they didn't feel angry. They actually were glad to have Donald Trump as a client. And Letitia James, the New York Attorney General, argued that they could have made more money. And that's what that $355 million is supposed to represent, is the additional money that could have been made if Donald Trump had represented his assets appropriately. So, again, the AP says the only case they found of a business dissolved under the anti-fraud lawsuit without citing actual victims or losses was that, quote, relatively small company that closed in 1972 for writing term papers for college students. Now, I'm going to pause right here because I think that's really important. I actually think it's really important that there is oversight of multimillionaires and billionaires who get away with fudging the law, who get away with preventing prosecution by having prosecutors in their pocket, by having attorneys general in their pocket, by having great legal teams, the best you can buy. I actually think that's really very, very important. What we see here is likely a clear violation of the law as it is written, which is pretty straightforward about misrepresenting assets. The law, however, has never been enforced in this way, with the exception of one case of a tiny company, not a massive company like the Trump organization with with billions of dollars in real estate assets, frankly. And so the fact that you even have this Associated Press story from last month analyzing this and quoting legal experts who were worried about the precedent this case was going to set. Now, again, his assets weren't totally yanked, but that $400 million, $355 million payment is incredibly significant. Incredibly significant. And that's worth pausing to think about. As much as many of us would love to see multimillionaires, billionaires like Donald Trump held accountable for getting away with practices that other people get audited for and have to spend thousands of dollars defending themselves for and would go to jail for. As much as we would all like to see law apply to them, to see them play by the rules just as much as the rest of us who don't have lots of money and influence to skirt the rules get out of it, does anybody think that this is now going to be applied equally to Democrats who violate this law, to people on the left who violate this law, to apolitical people who violate this law? And that's what I find, frankly, to be disturbing about this. Because, again, as much as I personally would love to see any multimillionaire, billionaire who's breaking the law face the rightful consequences for it and not pay their way out of punishment, civil punishment, criminal punishment. That is not what is happening here. And Letitia James is not suddenly eager to investigate, for example, believe it or not, one of her benefactors is the Soros family. There's a good reporting on this, actually. The Daily Wire was the first to report this. Fox News went and echoed it. Letitia James's candidacy, where she promised to get Trump on this very partisan basis, was actually backed by multiple members of the Soros family and Reid Hoffman, billionaire Reid Hoffman, partisan billionaire Reid Hoffman, who, in the same way that partisan billionaires on the right are benefactors to major politicians, Reid Hoffman has also been sort of a dark money, many of you know, dark money benefactor to a lot of Democrats. And so that's who boosted Letitia James. Does anybody in their right mind think that Letitia James is now going to turn her investigative muster over to George Soros or Reid Hoffman or their friends? Likely not. Engoron himself had given exclusively to Democrats, about $5,000 to Democrats, so a meager sum compared to Soros and Reid Hoffman and Letitia James, but it's still worth noting. It's somewhat unusual for a judge like Engoron. He donated to the former New York Attorney General. He donated to David Patterson. So it's pretty interesting that Engoron also has this history. One time he said he would share a, quote, controversial view. This is actually on tape. He said, "Now I'm going to say something controversial even though I'm being taped." This video is from about 8 years ago. "Juries get it wrong a lot. That's my own opinion. I do only civil trials, personal injury cases, contract disputes, but I've had situations where, like, oh my, heaven's sake, how could they have thought that? Well, I have a tool that I can deal with that. It's called judgment, notwithstanding the verdict. I can say there's no possible way that a reasonable jury would have reached that conclusion. All right, am I following the law or am I making the law? Okay, I'm following the law. I'm an impartial referee, but it's hard to factor out my own emotions. I have tools." Elise Stefanik had filed, who's a Trump backer, no question about it. She actually complained that, quote, Engoron had illegally gagged Trump's protected political speech. This is according to NBC News. Violated political giving rules with financial contributions to Democrats as recently as 2018 and ignored a decision on the appropriate statute of limitations in the case. Stefanik also noted that at the start of the trial, Engoron infamously smiled and posed for the cameras, which is true, although I'm not sure if that is legally a vulnerability for Judge Engoron in those cases. So again, this is from the New York Times. Even though the lenders made money from Trump, they were the purported victims in the case, with Letitia James arguing that absent his fraud, they could have made even more. The financial penalty reflects these lost profits, with nearly half of the $355 million, $168 million, representing the interest that Mr. Trump saved, and the remaining sum representing his profit on the recent sale of two properties, money that the judge has now clawed back. They called as witnesses the president's former bankers, who testified that they had been delighted to have Mr. Trump as a client. I'm reading this from the New York Times, by the way. Several of them said that they had not relied on his annual financial statements, but had independently assessed his wealth. Trump is obviously appealing this, and if upheld, the Times says an appeal could erase the cushion of liquidity, cash, stocks. If this is upheld against an appeal, it could erase that cushion of liquidity that Trump built in his post-presidential life, because he had claimed actually under oath last year that he was sitting on about $400 million of cash. So when you put that $355 million together with the $83 million payout to E. Jean Carroll, that's really big trouble in terms of Donald Trump's cash flow. So all this is to say, once again, I think it's pretty clear if you look at the records, maybe not about Mar-a-Lago, which Engoron had come up with some absurd evaluation for. But when you look at Donald Trump's record, I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone, least of all his voters, that he was engaged in, what did he say? That makes me smart, when he was pressed on some maneuvering, that white-collar maneuvering that he had previously done. I think that was in reference to taxes. He said that when he was running like 2015. I don't think that comes as a surprise to absolutely anybody. And personally, I think I'm looking at this, I think it looks like, yeah, he was doing, like, he was engaged in funny business. Not surprising, and not unusual, by the way. What is unusual is that Donald Trump is being plucked out from the group of people that make similar or conduct their business similarly. Donald Trump is being singled out of this group for doing what everyone else is doing, essentially, but just doing it in really high profile, as a really high profile person, probably the most high profile person in the world, and getting prosecuted on that basis and being ordered to pay that on this basis. You don't have to take my word for it, because I'm not a legal expert. You can take the word from the experts that the Associated Press interviewed actually on this issue, who unanimously said that the precedent here would be concerning, and that this case was being pursued, this victimless civil case was being pursued in an overzealous way. That is really troubling when you're doing that to a member of one party. If I thought this was the beginning of a bunch of dominoes falling, of liberal billionaires, Reid Hoffman, people who are, you could probably put money on whether or not they're conducting business in similar ways if you lifted the hood and could do a full, the most zealous audit that you possibly could conduct. If I thought that this was the beginning of one domino, I'd be out there with the rest of people who acknowledge that the multimillionaires and billionaires are getting away with a lot of funny business in this country, which Donald Trump basically acknowledged himself. People kind of knew that. It was baked into the electoral cake about him. It doesn't make it right. Politically, though, it doesn't mean that this is going to hurt him all that much, even though, again, when you look at Letitia James being backed by big Democrat money, anti-Trump Democratic money, it seems like in a lot of ways they thought they could, prevent Trump from beating them at the ballot box by beating him in court. And this is definitely not going to help them at the ballot box. It's plainly not. He has a lot of other cases pending. Some may be more problematic for him politically than others. But I think the real problem with this case is their decision to start making unprecedented lawfare. And I say lawfare because, again, I'm all for prosecuting powerful politicians who make millions and millions of dollars by fudging the rules, if not billions of dollars by fudging the rules, only if we're doing it on a nonpartisan basis. And I see absolutely no indication that this is going to happen on a nonpartisan basis. So if this decision leaves you with a pit in your stomach, you're not alone. That's definitely where I feel like I am right now. Trump is certain to appeal it, and we'll see where that appeal goes, and we'll continue to cover it for you here and follow it for you here at Breaking News.
Here he is coming out. Let's go to Mar-a-Lago in Florida. We're hearing Trump speak right now. Let's take a listen.
For, in my opinion, the country. A New York State judge just ruled that he's crooked as you could get. And a lot of people expected something like this, but not for the amount. But this is a very dishonest man. This is a man that's been overturned already on this case 4 times. But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything. It affects New York. It's mostly talking about New York, where we have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump, I will get Trump. Everybody's seen it. Letitia James, they've all seen it. Well, we'll be appealing, but more important than that, this is Russia, this is China, this is the same game. All comes out of the DOJ, it all comes out of Biden. It's a witch hunt against his political opponent, the likes of which our country has never seen before. You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here. So I just want to say this. You build a great company. There was no fraud. The banks all got their money, 100%. They love Trump. They testified that Trump is great customer, one of our best customers. They testified beautifully. And the judge knows that. He's just a corrupt person. And we knew that from the beginning. We knew it right from the beginning because he wouldn't give it to the commercial division. This judge thought Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, and it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount. So we realized that. He ruled against me before he even got the case. He ruled against me. He said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of before he even got the case. And Letitia James, that's another case altogether. She's a horribly corrupt attorney general, and it's all having to do with election interference. There were no victims because the banks made a lot of money. They made $100 million. And by the way, I paid approximately $300 million in taxes as the migrants come in and they take over New York. I paid over this period of years over $300 million in taxes. And they want me out. Oh, let's see if we can get them out. These are radical left Democrats. They're lunatics. And it's election interfering. So I just want to thank you for being here. We'll appeal. We'll be successful, I think, because frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone. People are moving out of New York State. And because of this, they're going to move out at a much faster rate. They used a statute. It's a consumer fraud statute that's never been used for a thing like this before. They used it on me because I'm running for president. I'm beating Biden by a lot. We're beating not only the Republicans, we're beating Biden by a lot. The poll came out today, we're up 20 points on Biden. If I weren't running, none of this stuff would have ever happened. None of these lawsuits would have ever happened. Nothing would, I would have had a nice life. But I enjoy this life for a different reason. We're going to make America great again. These are corrupt people. These are people that shouldn't be allowed to do the things they do. And they're using this as weaponization against a political opponent who's up a lot in the polls and always will be, because I'm competing with a man who can't put two sentences together, who doesn't know what he's doing. And we're heading into a third world war because of this guy. We have to win this election. They're doing everything possible to step in our way, but we're not going to stand for it. So thank you very much. We will get back to work. It's a ridiculous award. Listen, a fine of $355 million.
Okay, that was former President Donald Trump speaking outside in Palm Beach, Florida, outside of his Mar-a-Lago estate, obviously reacting in an inflammatory manner based on the judgment that was just handed down in that New York civil fraud trial case. We're going to bring in ABC News executive editorial producer John Santucci again. John, give me your reaction from what you're hearing from Donald Trump right now.
I mean, to be expected, Ike, right? Donald Trump has been extremely angry about this case more than anything. And listen, the reality is Donald Trump knew, and he said it at the top of his remarks, knew this was going to be a bad verdict, but I think the reality of how bad it is, right? The number of money that they now owe, the price tag, if you will, $354 million plus interest gets you well into the 400s. The fact that his two adult sons, Eric and Donald Trump Jr., have also been fined as part of this. The fact that his former CFO and comptroller have also been fined. But the other part of this, though, that I think is symbolic, and John Carl was hitting on this with you a couple of moments ago, this case is the beginning of what has already been a reality we've seen physically, but legally a change, in that this is a divorce. This is Donald Trump and New York State solidifying their divorce. He's no longer a New Yorker. He lives in Florida. All of his children live in Florida. They don't live in New York anymore. Donald Trump, who once bragged about Trump Tower and still does, but bragged about in the sense that he would bring people up to the 26th floor of Trump Tower where his office is, and he would show people Central Park, Walton Rink that he once repaired. The
Stunning new details have emerged in the Biden family corruption in Ukraine. The newly revealed audio recordings and documents provide supporting evidence implicating Joe Biden, his son Hunter Biden, and Secretary of State Antony Blinken in widespread corruption in Ukraine. The reason we know this is thanks to a former member of Ukraine's parliament, a man by the name of Andrei Derkach. Now, Derkach, you'll recall, exposed the Biden family corruption in Ukraine and then suddenly disappeared. Turns out he went into hiding after both the United States intelligence apparatus, the DOJ, and the Ukrainian government tried to punish him, to have him killed. Our next guest managed to find him and sit down for an extensive interview with some explosive new information about the Biden crime family. Simona Papadopoulos is the former attorney for the president of the European Parliament, and she's a journalist, and she joins us now. Simona, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. First and foremost, I'd like to remind the audience who we are talking about. Andrew Derkach is this infamous character, mischaracterized by the Western media as a Kremlin agent for one single reason, and is to expose Biden's family corruption in Ukraine. So as we now got a little accustomed to, everyone who outs facts of corruption of Biden's is targeted for being a Russian agent, and every fact, heavy evidence supporting these facts is a Kremlin agent himself. So Andrew Derkach had an extensive career in politics. He was trained in the KGB. I would like to stress this point because it's one of the questions I made to Andrew, and precisely is that why people characterize you as a Russian agent, and actually he said that his background as in education as KGB, it's actually affecting the perception, has been played in the public perception, but actually served his main career, which was a career as a politician and public servant, was committed to expose corruption in Ukraine. Now, while he was doing his job for his country, emerged facts of corruption that lead to a very well-known name in America, and his name is Joe Biden. He disappeared for 2 years after he leaked these infamous Derkach tapes, which are actually
Joe Biden is the worst president ever.
The conversation that Joe Biden, at the time he was vice president of the United States under the Obama administration, had with the former president of Ukraine, Poroshenko, in which basically threatened him to withhold $2 billion to Ukraine of American taxpayers' money in case Poroshenko wouldn't fire the general prosecutor, Shokin, that was looking into Burisma. Burisma is the energy and gas company where Hunter Biden, completely unqualified for the role, was sitting at the board of administrators, so for $80,000 amount. Burisma has been involved in a money laundering scheme and corruption. He provided massive documents, court orders, wire transfer, proving those allegations. But nevertheless, when at the time Derkach handed these documents to Rudy Giuliani, who opened an investigation about it, Rudy Giuliani has been under attack. And actually has been disbarred as an attorney and has been targeted as a FARA violator, like a Ukrainian agent. Well, this is a very long story, that's information, but it comes to actually a really simple message. And it is that everyone at national and international level who has exposed Biden corruption at any time, who has provided, even worse, supporting evidence to those allegations, has been targeted by a corrupted DOJ. But now let's get back to my most recent interview. When I met Derkach in Minsk, not in Kiev this time, my first question has been why we are meeting in Minsk, why not in Kiev in Ukraine? And actually his first answer was that he has been victim of an assassination attempt. Further, a meeting that Blinken had with Zelensky, and in which instructed Zelensky to resolve the Derkach issue, basically suggesting to use an unlawful method to do that. And Derkach alleged that he was explicitly referring to physical elimination. So what's the new evolution of this crazy story? From a corrupted government, so Biden bribing Poroshenko to cover up for his own crimes in Ukraine, we have a mafia government. We have a criminal organization in which inconvenient voices are instructed to be taken care of, basically eliminated. So this was basically the most shocking revelation of this interview. But we have more. We have more, and as we walk through this long 2-3 hours overall that have been cut in shorter segments, we can see many documents and new audio recordings that link to the involvement of other people that, along with the catch, has been working on exposing corruption of Biden again, and all of them have been targeted as well. And not only targeted by the DOJ or by incredible made-up persecution, as I say, but even their life is in danger. Actually, it was pretty crazy to hear the catch making an appeal to Congress, asking to basically save the life of Shokin, the same general prosecutor that back on time was fired because of Joe Biden international inquiry.
So you referred, of course, to the threats to his life, the threats to other witnesses' lives. Did he come face to face with any of these threats directly, or was it indirect that he was told about these threats to his life and that he needs to get out of Ukraine? Therefore, that's why you met with him in Minsk.
Well, he came face to face with this man who he characterized as an Albanian citizen, who was actually a hitman, and he was saved by his security, as a team providing for security, and he was able to actually escape Ukrainian territory and find exile also in Minsk, where I met him.
Киллера, это были выходцы с Восточной Европы, а непосредственно исполнитель он должен был быть албанец. К сожалению, произошла утечка информации, и эти люди смогли уйти с территории Украины безнаказанно. Не все, правда.
So he had to face directly that threats, and then, as he also mentioned, he has been busy working and exposing corruption ever since, so has been resilient in this purpose.
If you knew that this would be the outcome, would you still publish this thing?
Я бы все равно публиковал эти пленки, я все равно бы боролся с коррупцией. Я, собственно, этим занимаюсь и сейчас.
Can you talk more about the Antony Blinken piece of this, which is, so he's actually meeting with Zelensky and asking to resolve, take care of Derkach, like to go after him in not so many words, but we need to get rid of the Derkach problem. Can you elaborate more on Antony Blinken's ties to all of this?
Well, according to Derkach, during this interview actually revealed that this meeting between Blinken and Zelensky happened at the eve of the start of the military operation, so before the start of the war. The main concern, again, was to silence inconvenient voices, and that's how he has been informed by many different sources that were present at this meeting, that Blinken was actually quoted to say, let's resolve the catch issue. He was pretty much concerned by this individual. We have to remind that the catch has been sanctioned by the United States ever since, so his life drastically and dramatically had changed already since the very first moment he leaked these audio recordings to Giuliani. Then he kept working on exposing corruption, revealing new documents, and at this moment, Blinken fly to Ukraine and give precise instruction again to cover up for Biden and this, of course, corrupted government. So he quoted Blinken pronouncing this word, and again, I am referring to what the catches told me during the interview, and this, we need to resolve this catch issue. And he was pretty confident that these words made reference to unlawful method of physical elimination of his persona, and that's why he decided to flee the country served for 7 mandates as a parliamentarian to be actually a stage of exiled in Belarus. It's actually a crazy story if you think about it. And again, one question I made, why did you do that? Did you trust that the United States would help? And actually he told me the United States was not my concern. Joe Biden's fate is not my concern at all. I was investigating on the corruption of my country, which is my job, has been my job ever since I represented Ukrainian people. And as a result, I found out this fact of corruption that I shared with the American government and Giuliani for the knowledge, but my concern was Ukraine, was never Joe Biden, was never America.
Let's talk about the Hunter Biden piece of this, of course. The Democratic government, the Biden administration, the liberal media in the United States has downplayed these connections, the Burisma connection. They've called it, of course, propaganda. They've called it Putin propaganda, talking points, and all of this. Even in the past few days, we've seen Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House, saying that these types of discussions, it's Russian propaganda, Putin talking points. Can you talk about what he showed you related to Hunter Biden, documents, audio recordings, when you sat down with him in Minsk?
Well, it didn't show me anything strictly related to Hunter Biden, but it showed me the unlawful activity Burisma was involved into, and it resumed to court orders. For example, we have a court order in which the owner of Burisma, after being caught in a bribe of the size of $50 million, not $6 million as it was in the first documents detailed, he has been awarded as a result only with a fine of $1,800. So this shows which level of corruption. Even the same anti-corruption body and the DOJ has been involved into covering up for these activities to give the perception that this policeman was doing actually nothing wrong. But there is even more to that. It showed me other court documents showing that the size of the bribe was actually 50 millions. In the first time, we could track 6 millions, where these other 44 millions have gone. It linked this 44 million to the funding of terroristic activity of the allies of Biden in Europe, and he believes they've been involved with the explosion of the Nord Stream as well.
По работнику Буризма, господину адвокату Фичи. Английский вариант. Давайте напомним, о чем идет речь. Самая крупная взятка в кэш в Европе. 2020 год, 6 миллионов долларов в пакетах, переданных за закрытие дела о Буризме. И вот я вам передам документы, там есть рапорта Кулика на эту тему. О чем идет решение суда, вот о чем речь идет в этом решении суда. 21 апреля 2022 года украинский суд передает эти 6 миллионов наличного кэша по согласию с представителями Буризма в распоряжение воинской части Главного разведывательного управления Украины. Вот здесь вот есть номер этой части. Это секретное решение, его еще никто не видит. Через промежуток времени начинают взрываться северные потоки. Совершается покушение на Дугина, Прилепина, Татарского. Руководители спецслужб Украины не скрывают, что они проводят политическое убийство, террористические акты за небюджетный кэш. То есть, еще раз, партнеры Байдена по коррупционному бизнесу в Украине финансируют террористические акты.
Got a problem. One second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Sorry for let me turn you down just a little bit. Okay. Rhea just messaged me the following. She said, my car started making strange mechanical noises today. So if Chris is not able to secure a car, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it with the lithium tomorrow because I have to take it to the mechanic in the morning.
Yeah, no, I should be able to.
All right. So I'll let her know you said you should be able to, so she can coordinate with you in the morning, etc. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
One second, guys. Oh boy.
таким образом уходя от ответственности за коррупцию в Украине.
A lot of that interview is in either Russian or Ukrainian, and there's no verbal translator. Oh, really? I want to hear this.
American politicians and the media is mourning the death of racist and xenophobe Alexei Navalny as a hero and a victim of Vladimir Putin and his regime. Now, they're doing this to sell you a war with Russia, but if you look into who this guy truly is and how little we know about what happened to him, you will not accept this as a reason for any war. Now, Alexei Navalny died in prison today after reportedly suffering from a blood clot. The Federal Penitentiary Service of Russia reported that he fell ill after taking a walk. He lost consciousness, and medical staff did try to resuscitate him, but were unable. President Biden used the occasion for a live press conference in rare form. Every politician is ringing in with outrage, saying this shows that Putin is a madman, Russia is evil. Oh, but he was a political prisoner, the West says. He was poisoned by the Russians. He was Putin's biggest threat. None of this is true. I'm going to tell you what we do know about Alexei Navalny before he became this media darling, because it was easy to use it as a hit to Russia and Putin. Let's tackle just these 4 questions. Number 1, was he really a hero worth championing? Number 2, was he poisoned specifically by the Russian government? Number 3, was he wrongfully imprisoned? And number 4, was he actually Putin's main opponent? A lot of this comes from Jacques Baude's great book, The Navalny Case, Conspiracy to Serve Foreign Policy. So it's a great book. I'm going to recommend that you read it for yourself. But let's start with the first question. Was he a hero? Even the West knows that he wasn't. Here's a Salon.com article from as far back as 2017 calling him no progressive hero. He was basically, they said, the Russian equivalent of a white nationalist. He hated immigrants. They called him the Russian Trump. They said that liberals, or if they studied, which they don't, would hate him even more than Steve Bannon. Here are a couple things. They say he's anti-immigrant, especially when it comes from newcomers from Central Asia. They say that Putin, the people who support him, say that Putin is responsible for the destruction of Russia for allowing immigration. He has played a role in skinhead marches. He has the sympathies of other extremists. I love this tweet. It says, always a bummer for Westerners when they first learn about Navalny's anti-immigrant xenophobia and his role in Moscow skinhead marches. Does the West know this? Do they care? All of this praise, is this the equivalent of hosting a Nazi in Canadian Parliament, I wonder? So you decide. These are, of course, protected beliefs. If you want to be racist, go ahead. But it's a free country. You're allowed to be. But at least you should know when you're supporting a racist, right? Do you know that if you're supporting Navalny? Okay, question number 2. Was he poisoned by the Russian government for being in opposition to Vladimir Putin? Well, the alleged poisoning happened on a flight from Tomsk to Moscow. His entourage said at first that it happened with tea, but the tea was brought to him by his own colleagues. There was another weird story about underwear. When no one could corroborate that, later they said it was from water bottles from the hotel. They said that they actually took these bottles to Germany for analysis, but airport security footage shows that the luggage was checked. There was never any bottles, and the German government never said that they looked through any bottles, so that was weird. And in fact, his own colleagues later retracted the water bottle story. Now, about that poisoning, they claim it was Novichok, which means little one, in Russia. Strangely enough, reports are that Novichok is a combat toxicant that remained at the experimental stage and was never actually adopted by the USSR or Russia. They noted that its high toxicity made it difficult to handle on the battlefield, meaning if they tried to poison people with it, they'd get hurt themselves. So the Soviets abandoned it, and the facilities were then converted to produce chemicals for civilian use in 1987. Okay, but guess who does have Novichok? this is interesting, and guess where it's kept. According to sources, Novichok has been found in several NATO countries, including Germany, the United States,
And
Great
Ukraine.
Britain, Czechoslovakia, and
Ukraine.
Sweden, and
Oh,
has
no-
been
no
used for
Ukraine?
the purpose of research and the development of antidotes. As early as 1990s, the United States has filed nearly 140 patents on chemical weapons of this type. And as early as 1998, the American Chemical Weapons Laboratory in Edgewood synthesized Novichok. And according to this former FSB director, a small stockpile of Novichok existed in Ukraine.
Ah, there we go. There we go.
Okay, but suppose someone in Russia did get their hands on some Novichok and used it to poison Alexei Navalny. Well, this is known as an organophosphorus toxin, which means it disrupts the functioning of the muscles, and it's irreversible. You seize up, and then you can't reverse that, basically. Doctors, if they suspect that anyone has been poisoned with it, they have to wear full protective gear and masks. Funny, because no one who ever treated Navalny was in that gear. Not on the plane, not in the hospital, not in the ambulance. That's weird, right? Why is that? In fact, when he was later flown to Germany for treatment, we're going to get to why in a second, the German government later said, why did we put our people at risk if he was exposed to Novichok? And they were upset about it. Now, why did he go to Germany? It's weird because if you're going to go to the trouble to poison him, if you're the Russian government, why then do you let him leave for Germany? Why do you poison someone and then let them go? Well, here's why. It's because this NGO group demanded that he be treated in Berlin. They chartered a plane, and the plane took off a day later. Thus, in the late afternoon, at least one German doctor was at his bedside in Russia while arrangements for his transfer were made. On the evening of the 21st, after the personal intervention of Vladimir Putin, the Russian authorities gave their agreement for him to be treated in Germany. Why would Putin do that? Why do you poison someone and then say, okay, we'll break the rules and let him leave to Germany? Why do that? That's weird, right? Especially considering that he was under parole, which forbid him to leave the Russian territory, but Putin allowed it. Okay, now no one on that flight was wearing any protective gear. None. Despite any suspicions of Novichok poisoning, which actually the doctors in Russia never suspected. They were just trying to figure out what was wrong with him. It wasn't until he got to Germany that they started to use the language of Novichok poisoning. Now, while he was in Germany, these reports became highly classified. If you look through them, the various reports by the Charité Hospital, which is in Germany, the OPCW by Germany, Sweden, or France, all based on blood samples, which we're going to look at in a second, and none of them confirms the mode of poisoning, nor does it refer to the bottles or the underwear. And this was confirmed later in German Parliament. The analysis carried out by all of these Western laboratories remained classified and have not been published or communicated to Russia despite their request. Now, the hospital in Germany did issue a press release saying that the analysis indicated intoxication by a substance, but they didn't say what. Later, a Swedish analysis said this: the presence of XXXX was confirmed in the patient's blood. That's redacted. Well, that's weird. If they want us to think that it's Novichok so much and they know what's there, why redact it from us when you're so busy trying to tell us that he's been poisoned with this? This point about how the Swedish government does the bidding of the U.S. government, their paymasters over Julian Assange, is worth noting as well. Now, later, the medical journal, The Lancet, published this article that did have Navalny's blood work. They concluded as well that it was Novichok, but they also published his blood work. And it showed the following. If you read this over, you can tell that Navalny's blood work had the following: albumin, which suggests a liver problem, high values of this LDH, suggesting metabolic disorder, often observed with cancerous tumors, values of amylase and lipase suggest pancreatitis, which had been mentioned about him in the past. These other values suggesting a bacterial infection. Another drug often used to treat Parkinson's disease. Did he have Parkinson's disease? lithium used to treat bipolar disorder and depression. And these other things were present, which showed us that the man who died this week in a Russian prison was not otherwise a healthy man, even before this alleged poisoning. So will we ever know if he was actually poisoned? If it was actually the Russian government? What was there? Who put it there? We have so little evidence about this, despite the fact that the Western press has just run away with this completely. He was absolutely poisoned with this nerve agent, they say. What we do know is that he gets better in about the span of a month. He's released by the end of September, and his doctors say he's fine in October. That gets us to our third question then, because he later gets imprisoned in Russia. Was he wrongfully imprisoned? Well, Navalny was indicted on corruption charges, and he was only ever given a parole sentence for the same thing which other people do get jail time for. The fact that he was given a lenient sentence for that corruption charge and then violated his bail was never reported in the Western press, despite the fact here it says that he had already violated this rule 6 times in 2020 before this alleged poisoning. Twice in January, once in February, March, July, and August, but the Russian authorities were lenient with him. So not only had he had a lenient sentence for this indictment, he had been allowed to continue to just fly in the face of that parole condition and not uphold it. Now, he violated this several times, not because he was laid up in a hospital in Germany. This was not why he then went on to violate it again. He was discharged from the hospital. He ignored his parole to go on tour in Europe and go on vacation. Let's take a look at his schedule. First, I want to point out, because this book is translated from French, sometimes it says her when we mean him for Navalny. The obligation to report was suspended by Russian authorities while he was in the hospital. On the other hand, the report of the doctors in the hospital say that he was basically done with his symptoms in October. After leaving the hospital, again, he had special permission to leave, and then he was supposed to go back because he was on parole. He did not. He went to Basel. He gave an interview with the German media. Then he went on to southern Germany and spent a few days getting back into shape. Then in November, he went on a teleconference to Europe parliamentarians, to demand sanctions against Russia. Then later he flew to the Canary Islands for a seaside holiday, which he decided to take unexpectedly against the advice of his bodyguards. Then he took part in his film until January before leaving for Russia on January 17th. Everything seems to show that Navalny would have been able to return to Russia to fulfill his obligations, and that our media have played with the facts. On December 28th, in fact, the prison authorities sent him and his lawyers and his press secretary a warning, but he ignored it. Therefore, Russian prison authorities could hardly ignore this new highly publicized offense. So he's continuously violating his bail, and he's doing a media tour and taking fancy vacations and basically showing off about it. So it says here that they just, at this point, they just couldn't ignore this anymore, and they revoked his suspended sentence. He probably, it says, was hoping to benefit once again from the clemency of the authorities, but was broadcasting his film and calls for sanctions against Russia. That was probably naive on his part. He had just pushed it too far. Now, this is when the West jumps in and says Putin is persecuting his enemies. Russia is persecuting opposition politicians. You know the rest. But okay, to the last question. Is he actually Putin's main opponent? He is not. Putin's main opponent is the Communist Party, not the extremists who follow Navalny. In fact, Alexei Navalny was hardly popular in Russia. He had about 3% political support. Most people only know him because he was good on Instagram, but people outside of urban centers didn't much know him. In fact, if you look at this poll, it shows his approval ratings of his activities go down after this alleged poisoning. Now, these are not people who would vote for him, it's just people's impression of him. because again, his actual political support has been estimated at about 2 to 4%. But he loses a percentage after he claims to have been poisoned. And in fact, many report that when Russians see the Western press champion someone, they get suspicious that that person is a Western puppet. And there is a lot of evidence that Alexei Navalny was indeed a Western puppet and supported by American government NGOs and the CIA. That there's a lot of proof there. We'll save that for another video. Putin, again, his main opponent is the Communist Party, certainly not the extremists who followed Alexei Navalny. And Putin has said himself that if he wanted to poison Alexei Navalny, he would not have failed. He said this in December of 2020. He said, why would we even bother with that? And if I wanted him poisoned, he would be dead. Now, does that mean then that Vladimir Putin is good to his enemies? Does that mean Alexei Navalny had it easy in prison? Does that mean he was well treated? We don't know. We absolutely should want answers to those questions. I'll tell you what, though, I do not want answers to those questions from any NATO source or any NATO ally, not after the reports I've showed you about his alleged poisoning and how they played politics with those medical reports. So we should want an answer, but who do we trust for that answer? I don't know. Let me know what you think. So what is the takeaway from this death? Obviously, any death is tragic. People who loved Alexei Navalny did not get to say goodbye while he was in prison. My point here is not that this is a good thing. Clearly, it's not. My point here is that the West has used this story and manipulated you into thinking this person is a hero in order to sell you a lie in a war with Russia. My view on it is absolutely there should not be a war with Russia over this person and this story, and you should reject these media narratives. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching this redacted special report. And if you have any comments, I would love to hear them, and like and share this video.
I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. You know, YouTube thinks that you'll actually like this next video right here is personalized based on your own viewing habits. So if you watch the video, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it, and we will see you next time, everyone.
What we have here is the Ukraine First bill. This bill was never really about securing our border, but about securing another country's border. What we have here is a failure of the elites of Washington on both sides of the aisle, the leadership in the Democrat Party, the leadership in the Republican Party. What we have here is a failure of these elites to understand that the American people want to put America first. 61% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck, and they want to put Ukraine first. I want you to talk to your constituent.
That's that'd be it. How much more you have to go, honey?
6.
6 more? Okay. I just mean we're gonna keep your we're gonna keep it to a 1-hour stream, but we'll make it part 1, and then when we're done there, we'll stream for like 45 minutes at the beach and make that part 2. Putin, please plan. That's 24 minutes by Danny. The limits of America hegemony. It's 11 hours ago. That's way too long. Let's see what Douglas.
I have joining me today Colonel Douglas McGregor to go over a range of issues from international situations to local situations. Colonel McGregor, thank you for joining me today.
Sure, happy to be with you.
So, as you know, a couple of days ago at 4 in the morning, the Senate banded together to pass this $95 billion security bill to give money to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Over 20 Republican senators locked arms with Democrats and said, hey, let's go ahead and strip out all the money for our own national security, our own border. Let's strip out money for veterans, seniors, children. What are your thoughts on this? And is this a prime example of the military-industrial complex that General Eisenhower warned us about?
Well, I think there are several things. It reaffirms that the people in Washington are largely disinterested in what the American people need or want. They're completely unresponsive to real national needs. We don't need to fund Ukraine any longer. We never needed to do so to begin with, but now it's patently obvious to even the casual observer that Ukraine is in ruins. That war is lost. And if there was a shred of humanity in anyone in Washington, D.C., we would work to stop this terrible war immediately. All it's done is pile up hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians, destroyed the economy, destroyed the country. The Russians have exerted enormous restraint. They're not pushing as fast as they could to the Dnieper River because they would like to see a settlement. And obviously, there's no interest in really crossing that river into the west because they don't want to rule Ukrainians. And the real Ukrainians, from an ethnic, cultural, and linguistic standpoint, are overwhelmingly west of that river. They've had bad experiences with that in the past. Ultimately, what the Russians want to do is get back to business with the rest of the world, particularly the Europeans, with whom they had good relations, especially the Germans. So this is evidence that, nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but the overwhelming majority of people sitting in the Senate are just responding to their donors. They're looking at what puts cash into their pockets. They have some interest in their constituents insofar as they want to keep assembly lines humming, producing weapons that can ultimately be sent to Ukraine. But keep in mind that most of the money will go towards equipment that has to be built. Our stocks are depleted. We don't have very much to send without completely endangering our own security. So that means that most of this money goes into production that the Ukrainians, assuming that there are any left in a year, will not see for a year. So how serious can they be? The notion that we should spend money on Taiwan at this point for defense, and supposedly in the Western Pacific on the assumption that the Chinese are aggressive, is just pure unadulterated nonsense. No one in China is going to invade Taiwan. There's no danger to Taiwan unless we put missiles on Taiwan and troops on Taiwan and equipment on Taiwan and threaten China. So that's a shibboleth. That's an empty horse from the beginning. And then you mentioned Israel. Well, Israel's economy is in ruins. And if we were not to send billions of dollars there right now, the entire economy would collapse. Remember, they've had to move most of their manpower that would otherwise be productively employed in the economy into the military. And they're rapidly developing a multi-front war. And so this thing in Israel is actually beginning to run out of control, though people in Washington don't seem to understand it. I think their assumption is that the war will end whenever the Israelis decide they've killed enough Arabs, but they don't really understand the length and breadth of the disaster that is emerging in the region. That's another matter. So the bottom line is, the American people had better just come to terms with the reality that they are not represented in Washington. There's far more interest in diluting our national identity, culture, way of life, weakening the population's cohesion, our society's cohesion, by bringing in billions and billions of people that we know nothing about from places with which we have nothing in common than they are in the actual health and welfare and security of the American people. In fact, somebody said to me quite recently, you keep talking about the American people, who are they? Well, I think you're an American. I think I'm an American. How many of us are left out there who simply see ourselves as Americans, who think in terms of what's in the country's interest, what's best for them? I don't know. I still think there's a lot left of this. But you'd never know it in Washington, because there certainly isn't much interest in this.
The thing that gets somewhat confusing for me is they want to send all these billions of dollars of taxpayer money or borrowed money, but from a very simplistic point of view, it seems like we're sending money to get Ukrainians killed, and we're giving Israel money to get Arabs killed. I mean, at the end of the day, we're just funding death, and also gets very confusing because on the one hand, we're saying, okay, Israel, here's all the money and weapons you need to carry out your attacks that we disagree with, but then we're sending, all this aid on a daily basis into Gaza and Rafah, and so it gets very confusing from, again, an outsider, no military perspective. It just seems like we're just funding death.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that while we are at least financially supporting aid that could be delivered to Gaza and Rafah and so forth, it's not happening. There are at least 500,000 people who are on the edge of starvation. That doesn't even begin to address the problems with water, sanitation, and so forth. So we're looking within the next 6 months, 3 months, somewhere in there, at the very high probability that there will be 500,000 dead in Gaza. What I hear repeated over and over and over again is we're giving Israel what it needs to defend itself. Well, it's got what it needs to defend itself. What happened on the 7th of October was tragic. It was unfortunate and offensive. But at the same time, they made a mistake. Now, unless someone is going to stand up and say we deliberately did this, which I doubt in Israel, then someone made a terrible mistake. In other words, the gate was left open. And you're talking about an intelligence service that has the advantages that we do of extraordinary penetrating surveillance, overhead, ISR. And so the notion that, this is just the defense of Israel is ludicrous. This is something much more than that. It's clearly part of this project to make Israel a much larger and more dominant state in the region. And that has to come at the expense of the Arab population that lives inside Israel's borders. That means Gaza and the West Bank. Nobody ever brings up the West Bank. There are thousands of Arabs that are being held without trial and are just being picked up and randomly shoved into prisons. We have the same thing in Gaza, but Gaza gets most of the attention because there it's unmistakable. The bombings and the killings are shattering and overwhelming. Somebody said to me the other day, well, you've always supported Israel. Why don't you support Israel? I said, of course I support Israel. I've always supported the existence of the state. And I still feel strongly that we should preserve the state. But I said, you're asking me something else. He said, what do you mean I'm asking you something else? I said, well, would I stand by and applaud or cheer the systematic destruction of 2 million Jews in Israel? Well, my answer is absolutely not. But yet you're asking me why I don't applaud and cheer the destruction of 2 million lives that happen to be Arab in Gaza. I said, I can't do it. I think it's wrong. And it's interesting that the people that posture morally in Washington all the time seem to have turned a completely blind eye to what is morally reprehensible in Israel. And if you say something about it, then you're automatically castigated as all sorts of terrible things, bigots, anti-Semites, so forth. That includes a lot of Jewish people in the United States who are equally appalled by it. But, this is the mystery of Washington. Well, the American people need to disentangle themselves from the mystery. They need to understand that everything in Washington is still driven by money. And that's what's calling the tune there right now. If you have enough money that you can enrich enough people inside the Beltway, you can really determine the direction and the impact of American foreign and defense policy.
Yeah. Max Blumenthal was on my show. He said construction is booming in Washington, D.C., thanks to the Russia-Ukraine war, that people are, expanding, building on their houses, building brand new mansions. And it's all built on blood,
That's
this
crazy.
money gets funneled back to corporate donors, military contractors. These are Mitch McConnell's words, not mine. Oh, don't worry, that money doesn't go to Ukraine. It goes to weapons makers. Well, that's the problem, It's this vicious cycle, and I like how you separate the people, the voter, the constituent, from the donor. When you first said donor, my mind goes to, the people that give, a couple bucks here and there. But no, you're talking about the corporate donors who give and then expect those favors to be called at some point during somebody's time in office.
I like to call them billionaire oligarchs. That we have oligarchs in Eastern Europe and Ukraine and Russia. We talk about them all the time. I would say that Putin has either eliminated or tamed the oligarchs to the point where they are now aligned with Russian national interest. We haven't. Our oligarchs are on a different planet. They don't even live in the same country that the rest of us do.
Okay, around the same time that this $95 billion security for everybody else bill was passed, House Republicans came together and impeached Department of Homeland Security head Alejandro Mayorkas. This is the first cabinet member in a presidency impeached since 1876. How important is it to get Alejandro Mayorkas out, or is this the perfect example of cutting off the head of Hydra and 7 more grow back, and this problem just continues to exist?
Well, given the split that you just described in the Senate in terms of its willingness to vote all of these subsidies for everyone and everything beyond the borders of the United States, you might as well come to terms with the reality that this is cosmetic. Mayorkas isn't going anywhere. He's close friends with Chuck Schumer, and he's part of Chuck Schumer's cheerleading audience. So I don't see any evidence that anything's going to change at all. And we all know that Mayorkas is instrumental in keeping those borders open and encouraging millions of people to march north. He's seen the camps that exist on the ground in Darien down in Panama. We have Chinese camps. We have African camps and Arab camps and so forth and so on. In other words, facilities built for people coming into Panama from around the world. We see buses that show up and move people around. We see them then move all the way to the Mexican border. We know the kinds of horrific acts that are committed against women and children on the way up. Nobody pays attention to it. And then once they arrive, we hand them a check. We give them a cell phone and then free tickets to wherever they want to go. And all of the airlines are told to fly these people wherever they want to go. The bus terminals are told to pick them up and take them. And then they arrive. And the idea is that if you can distribute enough of these people all over the country, you can turn the so-called proverbial red states into blue states. Blue meaning, I guess, bloodless, no longer American, fundamentally foreign, in the hands of people that do not support and are not loyal to the United States of America. That's what it boils down to. And they're winning. They're winning because no one is really stepping up and doing anything about it.
Okay, the biggest story in the news this past week has been Tucker Carlson and his stupidness or courage, depending on which side of the aisle you're reading from. He interviews Russian President Vladimir Putin. What were your thoughts on this interview, and was there anything that Putin said that stood out to you?
Well, the first thing that springs to mind is that Tucker is a very courageous individual. He knows the risks associated with going to Russia and interviewing the Russian head of state right now. As far as Washington is concerned, we are at war with Russia. We have no declared war, but we're doing everything short of committing our air, ground, and naval forces to the fight. What we've done is commit lots of advisors and clandestine individuals to support that make equipment work and systems work for the Ukrainians, and at the same time huge quantities of money. So he's in a difficult position because from the vantage point of this government and most people.
That place is always everlastingly empty. And because of how nice it looks, I figured it's because it's expensive, right? I did not realize how expensive this place actually is. Now look, I'm not above paying $1,000 or a little bit over $1,000 for food, alright? I don't have a problem doing that. When it's like burgers and stuff like that, or even pasta, I don't have a problem. But you're telling me a box food it's $1,400? I mean, 1,450. But I always buy seasoning with burger now. I don't mind. Genuinely, I don't mind. Really, I got 5 minutes. That's it. Anyways, but I guess that I didn't. But literally,
Oh wow.
for box food. Now it was a large size, even though it's a large size box, but they call that a small. So I don't know what the large size looks like. And it's more food than I personally eat, so I don't know how many pieces.
Got a cold.
5 pieces on it.
Twitch.
About 5 pieces on it. But there's like yes.
6, 3, 7.
And they're not like big pieces.
9, 7, 7.
Is it a 4 or 5? Yeah. So I don't know, but I mean, at least the very least, right? The food actually tasted decent. I think if you're going to pay that much money, at the very least, make sure it tastes good, right? But yeah, that was I literally did a double take at the I literally did a double take at the menu. Like I don't typically do that. I will pay for expensive food sometimes, but when I look on it, I say weird. So what that? Like that. And then say, oh my God, not crying. Jesus, yes, I am alive. Jesus, I am here. I'm alive. My faith children. Literally, I'm really getting so weighed down on the 2 things. Also, I'm going to let y'all know I don't have my water on me, and I'm really not in bed. I don't really need to get it. Yeah. That's okay. But yeah, that one's anybody said I'm paid $3,000 for a box for religion? Wow. Vlad, apparently the upstairs at this place is $3,000. I didn't actually look and see that, but apparently some people I work with went down there and that's what they saw. So yeah, upstairs for $3,000. I mean, I did happen to glance at the seafood option, notice and said glance, and it was close to $3,000. So I went to Mystic Thai for some time. I have been meaning to check out Mystic Thai, but I like that. After the one 5 days. It was like $10 for the well, I mean, from what I understand, that Mystic Thai was originally on the North Coast, and it's just a restaurant that created a branch on the side. And it's the same thing with Dutch Oven, apparently. Or it's a similar case with Dutch Oven, where they had a location either on the North Coast or somewhere else in the North Coast. I thought you got isekai or something like that. But
shit.
I will admit I didn't actually plan to stream. I just got the urge to. Because I was actually watching Assassination Classroom. I was watching it over rather because I don't think I finished season 2, but I started it again from the beginning. And I was watching it for like a while, but then my parents came downstairs and they occupied the TV space and changed it to their show, and I was not interested in having continue, so I just went upstairs. I literally watched the dishes, then I came upstairs and I'm like, you know what, forget it, I'm gonna stream. So yeah, here I am. But I was very much engrossed in the show. I made a jet monster. I just come back to the game, dog. Where am I? Oh, okay. I'm gonna go over there. I found out some. fact that I am fucking grandmaster is just actually annoying, and I think they're people great now. Please drop in Carnival. All of y'all that I see coming in description, you drop Carnival, please. I mean, I'm not into the foolishness of y'all. But it was trap point really. Funny enough, I watched like the second Adam the other day that I actually find really interesting. It's fairly new. Villainous level 100. I was watching it on Wednesday. Yeah, I caught up with it on Wednesday. Honestly, I love the fact that she's like applying all of these video game mechanics, and everybody's just like, what video game? Like, you know what it is to me. Where the fuck do these people go? If they're trying to make an amendment. Why did they stop so far? What the fuck is that? Fuck the game or not? Oh, this is the perfect place for me. But his level is good, I don't even know. Exactly. And the thing is that she's not wrong. She's actually not wrong in that. You just have to keep doing this. She's not wrong in the slightest. But I guess they're not used to video game tactics. You know, they're used to, you know, real life situations. So when they hear somebody do that, they're like, huh? What is that? Why is this person endangering everybody? So yeah, that's one of the things I've been figuring out. I restarted, that's right. Mainly because I wanted to introduce Mario and Chris for this I wanted to reintroduce them, or introduce the show overall to them. So far, Chris is not keeping it. Roma seems to be mildly interested in the premise. So we shall see if I can convert them. Oh, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. That is it. That is it. That is fraud. And we don't have to look at the Verge. Isn't that good? Yeah, pass it, please. You know what? I think that's not worth it. Wait, Fruits, hold on. What do you mean? Fruits Basket is a very good series. No, I'm not even joking, huh? You know what's solo leveling? I've heard of it. I don't know much of it. But I've heard good things about it. I feel like I'm working with it, but it's like a continue to use that and then another shit. And the good part of the series doesn't work. She was fixing everyone's problem, like bro, go to a therapist. She couldn't afford a therapist. Let's be real. She couldn't even afford a house, much less a therapist. You expect this girl to go to a therapist? No. She became everybody's therapist, and then eventually, everybody became hers. Okay. Or the family, well, you see, with their, you know, what's it called? With their issues, you know, their special needs, I don't think going to a therapist that was outside of the family would have made sense.
Oh boy.
Or, well, yeah, I will consider, wow. I considered checking it out. This is great. It's great. What is going on?
That sucks.
Non-garbage. Non-garbage. Goodbye, bitch. Oh my god. Okay, I'm alive. Where's the other teammate, dude? I'm gonna come for him. How much shit that okay. I've heard a lot of great things about it, so I'm considering trying it out, especially since the couple shows that I've decided to watch and also started watching. Are not going to get updated like another mistake, right? Might as well. Not right. Not really. Y'all are sick in the head. In no way. That's good. Let's please rebind again. But I'm not going to finish this now. Yeah, please. Please. God, really? No, guys, that's not the way. Yeah, no, that's not the way. I guarantee that's not the way. We are not going that direction. I promise you it is not. Very much not. I'd rather go with it. Okay. Going to tiny bit at this level of foolishness is nonsense. I'd rather brave the water. I would rather brave the water. Like, if you can do that on survive, props to you, but I'm not doing it. So you don't see the foolishness? Which foolishness of a man? No, go for it. You dead as well. No, realistically, that makes sense. Nope. Do not support, do not. Wait, what is this guy? Oh, this guy is trying to save it? Are you feeling anybody to save me? You need to actually get through this one. I really need to stop a little. I thought they're going to get fixed. But I expected it to really good that way. I'm not really quite safe about one thing that I've done for some time. Okay. Space. Bye-bye. Oh, the fact that they survived. That's good. It's gone again. It's all continuing to that. Anyway. Consider completed, but it's still being destroyed. I mean, if a series starts it makes sense. It makes sense. To keep it going. I feel like we're well. That one is debatable. I mean, they still have to. They have no problem in it. It's just hard. But it does make sense to go ahead and clear it. As long as with it. When I go to the okay, that's good. I should have taken up a vehicle. So there's people. Really I'm saying there's people, but I don't see them. Anyone a vehicle, so we can't get over. Now, I'm not really sure what my teammates are smoking. And I'm not sure if I want any of it. But you're smoking something. Really think you're smoking. God. I don't see anybody. Sir, if you're gonna take the vehicle then, oh my god. If you're gonna take the vehicle, take the ramp.
Drove into the water.
The ramp is there for a reason. If you're able to take it, if you have a vehicle, just take it. I wonder if people buy this thing sometimes. If you have a vehicle, you can easily take a ramp that's right there. Okay, well, I still take for my I don't trust you for far. I really don't. You know, say I've caught up. Wait, have I caught up with the Pocket Day? Okay, no, I have not fully caught up with the Pocket Day. But I've got to the part where they introduced the left hand of the thing. But I have not, like. I haven't got much further. But I did get to the part where they introduced it. Like I haven't explained this here, but Jesus Christ. The fox said, what the shit? What the damn it. Okay, I'm going to get out of range next. Okay. Okay, there's a reason why I don't like this place. It is very open. This particular place is very open. It is not inside of what it's in here. Jesus Christ. Oh, this guy is screwed. Where? Okay. Bye, farewell. Yeah, I figured out I was gonna get that. I'm gonna get it. Oh, I thought about it. Wow. But I'm still up. You know, I'm partially regretting not looking at it. And partially. Yeah. Blood, oh come on, I don't have water on there. It's like expected. I don't feel like getting off.
Bodied.
Oh, they have like that.
Bodied. Yeah. Okay, guys. Now just finished your hair. I just won the last game. Neko is on. I'm gonna get her clothes ready. She's gonna jump on a stream on her channel for about an hour, hour and a half tops. So midnight to 1:30 the latest, and then we're calling it. So we'll see you guys there. Anyone who wants to come over. And she's gonna talk about what's going on for tomorrow while we're in the room with Neko. Maybe she'll play some Farlight with her or whatever. But check you guys there. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate all the support, guys. Deuces.
I'm Empress Nile. I manage and direct the Valkyries of Arcadia. The Valkyries of Arcadia, we are a multi-talented pop icon gaming group. Each Valkyrie has specific talents. For example, we have Hasari, she's our dance coordinator. We have Kwanai, she's our songbird, she sings. We have Silva Neko, she's into cosplay, graphic design, and she handles that part for the Valkyries. And we have Alicia, who is into fitness and wellness. The organization started around 20 years ago when Empire Arcadia, the company, was formed. The Valkyries of Arcadia is the female division. Anime, I wouldn't say is our main focus because we are multi-talented and we do focus on many things, but We do go to events like Anime Comfest, which has a multitude of different things there. For example, I host our annual Just Dance Off esports tournament every year. And also we do cosplay and we do different activities for people to enjoy. I don't only manage and direct, but I also do host events. For example, our Valkyrie retreats. That's where we either go to a private pool and hang out there, or we go out for sushi at East Japanese, and then we come back and end the day with our branded gaming streams. For example, we have Bed Lounge Game and Chat, which I stream on YouTube and Trovo. There we dress all cute and sexy in bed while having fun streaming our favorite video games. It is literally my life. It's work, but it's also very fun. I work in the television entertainment industry, where I also perform in music videos. I host entertainment shows, and I was also the host for Jamaica's only video game TV show, the Lab Video Game TV. I'm also currently working on the Valkyries' very own reality TV show for Jamaica. There you can get a real inside look into how we live our lives. So it's real. This is real. Jamaica is slowly opening up to anime pop culture on a whole. A few years ago, it would be seen as little pitney something, go take up your book. But now, thanks to the internet and outside influence, of course, people are seeing that it's more of a career. It can be a very viable part, and Jamaica is also so rich in culture. So if we could mesh our culture with pop culture, anime, thanks to Anime Comfest and other events like that, Jamaican public are slowly opening up to it. And what I would like to see more of, we're kind of already doing it because people are opening up to anime. We're fine walking out in public in our cosplay so far. They're opening up. And the only thing I would like to change is the speed, but it is happening. Looking good is also a part of the job, which is why I'm an ambassador and a model for the digital, international, and print product of Jamaica magazine. Yeah, we even got our own exclusive magazine. You can find me pretty much everywhere on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all the socials at Empress Nile. That's EMPR3SS Nile.